It just works now.
Look at that. That's like Christmas over there.
I got all the buttons back. Got all the buttons back. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a glorious day here on the Rob Brown Show, and the reason that I went and checked, great one, was because
look at you.
The Goldhorn Selly has been added to the roster officially. I went back and forth, great one, and let's just knock this out immediately and right out of the gate. Do we want as our great text Selly? Because remember, only a great text is getting the Goldhorn Selly. Do we want the great text horn Selly to be do we want the great text horn Selly to be?
See, I like the former, not the latter, because it has more, it sounds happier. I mean, so this is a great text. You're happy about it. You're not. The other one is just, it's foreboding. It really is. Like something bad is coming.
We talked about that. Yes, that's the LA Kings horn right there, which is, of course, the NHL franchise connected to our Greenville Swamp Rabbits. But also, we're hometown kids. We're Carolina kids over here. And the Cardiac Canes, that's the Carolina Hurricanes horn. So do we go with the affiliation of the local hockey club with the Kings, or do we go with the local hockey club, the Carolina Hurricanes? I'm personally leaning towards the Kings.
Well, since Swamp Rabbits head coach Kyle Mountain is the one who got on to you about not having it.
He busted me up yesterday about it.
I would go with the one that, is more affiliated with the Swamp Rabbits.
I think you're right. I think that is the way to go. I think that's the way to go. I think we are going to go with the Selly. I'm going to go ahead and make it its own color here on the board. Great one. Go ahead and make it its own color. We're going to give it its own special spot right up here at the top. And from this point forward, as of yesterday, and you can all thank Greenville Swamp Rabbit head coach Kyle Mountain for this, as of today, if you send a great text, a text that I immediately go, I got to read that now. You send a great text, you're catching the Goldhorn Selly. All right? So, we're looking for a little textual healing here for the rest of forever on the Rob Brown Show. All right? We want you to touch us textually by sending a great text to 71307. Start that text with FAN, F-A-N, and here's the deal. If you send me a great text, if you just have great text with us, I am going to hit you with the Goldhorn Selly. Stick your name on that bad boy, all right? Get your credit. Get your credit where credit is due. Send us a great text at 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, and stick your name on it so you get your name read on the air. Also, by the way, I put out yesterday a little social media plug because I want the Ray Memorial Hotline cooking. I got to tell you, I have been, if I can keep it a buck with you here, I have been a little disappointed because I genuinely thought the Ray Memorial Hotline was going to be absolutely untouchable. I thought it was just going to be like lights out every day, no questions asked. We were going to get 1,000 of these. We get very few.
Shout out to the corporate suits who have decided to place a thing over the button telling you what it's for.
They did. They did. I'm glad they did. For the record, Lonzo's a hashtag influencer. Yes. Absolutely.
Yes.
He's been complaining about that since the debut of the Ray Memorial Hotline. And finally, the suits upstairs were like, yo, Lonzo's got a point. Lonzo's right. Lonzo is cooking over here. Let him cook. Let Zoe cook. And they finally made the change. So the Odyssey app, the Fan Upstate page, click on the little circle microphone button, now with a description underneath it, and leave that 30 to 60-second voice note. I put up a couple of social media posts yesterday, just basically inviting the world to use it. I'm like, I don't care if you're not in Greenville, South Carolina. Use this thing. Listen to the show. Have at it. Let's get it cooking. And I can't promise that everyone else here at the Radio Ranch that also uses that isn't going to be upset with me, because there were a lot of people that were like, I am about to make you regret this, Rob Brown. And my response was, bring it, fool.
See, here's the problem.
Bring it, chump.
You're the only one who realized that that thing exists. I was talking to some people yesterday. There's like, what? There's a button? Yeah, because people in the building don't know it's there. Trying to figure out how you found out first. Maybe you actually read an email that we all ignored. That's what I'm guessing happened.
I mean, probably. Not that anyone around here ignores emails. Couldn't, shouldn't, wouldn't, absolutely never have.
Well, if they come from the boss, I read that thoroughly.
I mean, we all do.
Yeah.
Definitely. For sure. Without question.
You know, and usually check it 2 or 3 times. I read it more than Santa Claus.
All right. We have got a lot to get to today. A lot to talk about. Continuing fallout from the college football playoff rankings that dropped on Tuesday night. We're going to get to those later on. Shane Beamer had a lot to say about it yesterday. We're going to play some audio from his press conference, his reaction to his squad being left out of the rankings. We'll get into that. We have some more comments from Ward Manuel that we have got to get to on the show today. Remember how yesterday and the day before and the day before and the day before and the day before and the day before, I was talking about the fact that I do not think that teams who participate in a conference championship game should be dropped behind teams that do not, right? I've said this. I said it to Denton Day yesterday. I've said it to you guys in the Armada multiple times over the past few weeks. I do not think a team that does not participate in their championship game should be elevated above teams who do, even if that team loses. For instance, I do not think that, I don't know, let me just make up 2 teams for no reason at all. I do not think, for instance, hypothetically, of course, that the University of Alabama should be elevated over the SMU Mustangs if the SMU Mustangs were to lose the ACC title game. No reason I'm saying that and using those 2 teams specifically, Lonzo, except for yesterday, Ward Manuel, when asked, hey, could SMU be dropped behind Alabama in the rankings if they lose the ACC championship game? What did Ward Manuel say, great one? He said, absolutely they can. He said, we'll see, which you might as well just go, yeah, they're not Bama, so bleep them.
I don't. Last I checked, it's 2024, and I can't believe someone named their kid Ward. But
it's got an E on the end. It's very fancy.
Is it okay?
Yeah. He's actually the second person I've known named Ward. There was a kid I went to high school with named Ward.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
no E on the end of his, though. It was just W-A-R-D.
It sounds like a was he from an uppity family? Because it's what it sounds like. Yeah.
No, not really. I mean, he wasn't poor, but.
Can we please help young Ward with his homework?
Ward said that if SMU was to drop or was to lose the ACC title game, they could maybe potentially be dropped behind Bama. He said, and I quote, we'll see. And we're going to come to that later in the show. But while we're here, does anybody think that we'll see means anything other than, as Dave Chappelle once said in a legendary skit on the Chappelle Show, because that's why. Like, that's what it sounds like to me. I'm sorry. That's just how it comes across. And when you are already dealing, and by the way, sometimes, great one, it's very rare, but sometimes I question myself. sometimes I question myself. Sometimes there are days that I say stuff and I feel like I spend enough time doing show prep. And the way a lot of this prep works for me, because, and I think that you guys have, if you've listened to the show for any length of time, you realize that for many of us, we frequently come into a segment, come into a show with an opinion on something. And then as we're having the conversation about that thing, we end up coming to a realization about the conversation that we're having. To be like, oh, I didn't think about that. Or, oh, that's an interesting angle. That's kind of the fun of this, is that I will spend time coming up with a thought, as you people call it, a take, hot or otherwise. So I'll sit there and I'll sit at night and I'm in the bro cave and I'm putting together the show for the next day, kind of shaping up all right, what do I think about this? And how are we going to attack this to make it more interesting than just reading the news, right? And so I'll come up with these takes. And then ordinarily what ends up happening is I like to go dig into the opinions that are being thrown around on the internet and see, okay, does somebody have a take that's different than mine that makes me reconsider? Does somebody have a take that's different than mine that I have a reaction to? Does somebody have a take that's different than mine that I think is like so egregiously bad that I solidify my opinion even more, right? And then I get done. Had a real long day yesterday. We've got some stuff going on in the fam that I'm having to run around the entire state of South Carolina to help out with. And so last night, because Lonzo nailed it when I told him what was going on, and he goes, "Oh, you're gonna need some video game time." I was like, "Yep, sure do." Got to the end of the night, poured myself late last night. I had Duke Auburn on a screen. After I watched Bama, North Carolina, great night of college hoops last night. Great night of college hoops. Watched a bunch of basketball, and then I'm like, you know what? Jumping on with the boys. Shooting some pew-pews with the boys last night. Get on. And one of the things that happens when I play with the boys on the old Xbox at the evening time is that because we are all sports dorks, we will start having conversations. And now, sometimes I come up with new takes. So I was reading through some of or listening to some of the stuff that they were saying, because I've been on and on and on about this. I think the College Football Playoff Committee is as concerned. I haven't said more concerned yet, but I'm working towards it. I haven't said more concerned, but I think the College Football Playoff Committee is as concerned with brand as a metric for Hoomst is to get in and Hoomst is to be left out. I think it is as concerned with brand as it is strength of schedule, results, head-to-head matchups, common opponents, yada, yada, yada. And I've said this really for about a year now. I started saying it after the Florida State debacle last year, and I've continued to say it ever since. I said last year when the Florida State debacle happened and all of you guys were going, "Oh, Rob, you're just butthurt because you're a Florida kid and you're mad about a Florida team not getting in." And my response was, no. What I'm mad about is that they just set a precedent that they can find a way to bump a team that has earned a playoff shot in order to just give it to somebody else. And I think Bama got in because they got a brand, and it's going to happen to somebody else down the line. Here we are a year later at South Carolina. But I the last day or two, as we've talked about this, I am always open to the other side of the argument. I'm always open to the other side of the argument, except on certain things, like aliens aren't. Like, we haven't proven aliens, right? I'm not hearing that yet. Show me the proof. But I'm always open to the other side of the argument. I like when my mind gets changed. I am open to, that is why the phone lines are always open at 844-326-3663. I am open to the other side of the argument. So the last couple of days, I've kind of been like, all right, maybe those people are right. Maybe I am being sensitive, right? Because I've made the point that, yeah, Carolina fans have a right to be upset about being left out of the 12. But again, we have hammered on and on for a number of years now that head-to-head matchups matter. And there's a reason that you're behind Alabama and Ole Miss. And look, even if Miami was behind those teams, it probably still wouldn't matter. Because even if everything shapes up the way that Lonzo and I ran through the hypothetical yesterday, where all of the dogs were to win in the conference championship games, there is still the most likely outcome. The most likely outcome is that there is one at-large spot available for the 4 teams, Bama, Miami, Ole Miss, and South Carolina, for the 4 teams that we are talking about here. And unfortunately for the Gamecocks, you lost the heads up to Bama. You lost the heads up to Ole Miss. That puts you behind them. I thought maybe I'm just being a little sensitive here. And then I started listening to some of the audio that I'm going to play you later on in the show. Dan Patrick said yesterday, Bama's in because they're a brand. Todd McShay said yesterday, Bama's in because they're a brand. I played you the audio yesterday from Barrett Saleh, who said Bama's in because they're a brand. Like, this is, I appreciate it when and again, I went out on a limb a year ago and said, this is about the brand. This is about the Crimson A. It's not about football. It's about the Crimson A. And I got blasted for it to the point that I questioned myself. Like, do I have a flaw in my logic here? And here we are. And I've got Barrett Saleh and Todd McShay and Dan Patrick and a bunch of other big-time heads who clearly aren't terrible at their job because you know their names. And they have all come around saying, this is about the brand. This is about getting that script A into the fold. And I feel better about that take. So we're going to examine the arguments of them, of me, and we're going to see if it is just a narrative that has been driven to the point that you have to participate, or if it's a legit take later on in the show. Lulu Kesin at 8 o'clock to talk Gamecock football. Rashad Beard at 8:40 to talk Panther football. Fight Club with the great one Lonzo at 9:20 to talk wrestling and MMA, all coming up on the Rob Brown Show with the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, got a live read right out of the gate. Y'all stay right there. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. All right, good morning, kids. Yeah, SEC kicked the ACC's rear end in the ACC-SEC Challenge. There were only 2 wins. Duke beat Auburn, Clemson beat Kentucky, and that was it. It was pretty bad for the ACC. The ACC doesn't even have basketball anymore.
I'd rub my eyes in sadness, but I'm busy.
How did I get 70 emails last night? And none of them are important.
I don't know why you're complaining about that.
I mean, I guess I'm like, it's important that
could have got 15 all from the boss. If you get up to 15, though, that probably would warrant a phone call, more than likely.
Your smart speaker, just say play 97 The Fan Upstate. On your HD radio at WFBC HD3. There's just one more thing. And on your computer at thefanupstate.com. Getting the game
on. 2-0, and it's Thursday. I'm in trouble here, kids. I'm in trouble. I'm gonna need an epic collapse out of the great one, or else I haven't taken an L in our dummy forgot to turn his mic on game in a minute. I'm in trouble. I am against it now.
Really?
Yikes.
That's what you think? Okay.
Yikes.
We don't keep track of these things. If we did, I mean, you may find out that you've lost more than you think.
We don't take. What do you call it?
No, I mean, we don't have a tally of the month or the year. If we did, we kept track of that. It might be different than what you think. That's all I'm saying.
I don't think so. I'm pretty good at it. You had one like the week before your vacation because you were going on vacation where you got slammered.
Oh, I know.
Bad, like real bad. All right, we got a lot that we're going to continue to discuss here on the show this AM. Again, if you want to be a part of it, now is your opportunity. The renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone is available for you. 844-326-3663. The text line is open at 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N. We will read them on the air. You can tweet me at The Rob Brown Show. You can tweet Zoe at Lonzo on Word. You can get at all of us here on the station at the Fan Upstate. Don't forget the Ray Memorial Hotline. Go to the Odyssey app. Go to the Fan Upstate page. Click on the little microphone button and leave your 30 to 60-second voice message, and we will get those played on the air for you. Texter said, Rob, auto bids are the main problem with this playoff system. Get rid of auto bids and the best 12 teams will be in. Here's where you find yourself with that. And I don't want to say I don't care. I genuinely don't know how I feel about it. Because on one hand, conference championships are a part of the fabric of college football. On the flip side, I am a bit of an iconoclast. I don't particularly care about traditions. I consider them peer pressure from dead people. Like, that's not to say there aren't traditions that I do respect, but I am not one of these people that gets up in their feelings when we get to a point that we realize that a tradition has run its course, right? So I don't mind shrugging a tradition, but I don't want to buck a tradition for no reason. If I'm going to buck a tradition, it's because that tradition serves no purpose anymore. Sometimes traditions serve the purpose solely of a bond between a large group of people. right? Dumb example, but I know a bunch of Gator fans who have come around to my stance that the Gator bait chant is actually kind of dumb. But even if they all acknowledge that the Gator bait chant is dumb, by the way, Tiger bait for LSU as well. And I don't know, it comes in the Tiger bait, doesn't matter. The bait thing is dumb. What is bait for? To catch and kill that animal. It's kind of dumb. I know a bunch of Gator fans who will come around, but it is one thing to come around as an individual and go, yeah, that's kind of a dumb phrase. But when you got 70, 80, 90,000 people all screaming it in unison, Gator bait, Gator bait. And Ben Hill Griffin Stadium is rocking to 100,000 people screaming those words together. That tradition, even if it is dumb in that moment, serves the purpose of being a social bond for all of those people to display their camaraderie with their tribe, right? Here's what happens with the auto bids. If you dump the conference championship auto bids, conference championships serve no purpose anymore. Why in the hell, when you just heard Warden Manuel say last night that SMU absolutely can, and by that, I mean he said, and I quote, we'll see, which is, yeah, but I can't say that, right? Yeah, they absolutely can drop behind Bama, but I'm not going to outright say that because I know a lot of y'all will get mad about it and hate me, which is, Ward, absolutely correct. So if SMU can get dumped behind Bama because they played in a conference championship and Bama did not, if the prize for winning that conference championship game, in this case, a first round bye in the college football playoffs, necessitating only that you win the second, third, and finals, as opposed to having to winning 4 games to get there. If that is the case and that auto bid is taken away, and a team like Bama, who does not play in a conference championship game, can still jump you. And again, Tuesday night, I was on BetMGM tonight. Ryan Horvat and I were talking about this, and he talked about, SMU Clemson. And I said, whoa, before we get to that point, Horvat, would you bet me a paycheck right now that if SMU loses, they will not get dropped behind Alabama? And Horvey went, nah, absolutely not. I said, good, because they will. They will. And Brad Evans was like, are you sure about that? I was like, yeah, watch. If SMU loses to Clemson, which is absolutely on the table, they're only a 2.5-point favorite. If they lose to Clemson and they get dropped, they'll get dropped behind Bama. Watch, book it, count it right now. So if that's the case, if that's a reality on the table, and you have taken away the prize of winning a Power 4 championship and more than likely getting yourself an auto bid and an auto buy, why the hell would you play in the conference championship game? What would be the point, right? So I'm not saying you're wrong, Texter. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying that the concept of auto bids going away wouldn't make the playoff bracket better, easier to put together. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is if we go that direction, conference championships go bye-bye. Now, maybe you're okay with that. I'm sure a lot of people are. Lonzo and I have been talking about this in a different perspective for the past couple of weeks. The conversation we've been having is, what would you rather? If I'm a magical football genie, not as funny as Robin Williams, but a funny magical football genie nonetheless. And I showed up and I said, Texter, I can grant you, as a guarantee, one of 2 wishes. Wish number 1 is that you will this year dominate your rival. You will run them out of the state. You will win a game that will be talked about spanning the ages of the fandom of your school. but you don't go to the college football playoffs. I guarantee you a rivalry win, but you don't go to the playoffs. Or the other option is you're going to lose to your rival this year, but I guarantee you a spot in the college football playoffs. There will be a significant group of people who'd say, I'd rather take the historic win over the rival and no playoffs. But I'd be willing to bet that if I asked 100 college football fans, would you rather have a historic win over your rival or a guaranteed playoff berth? I guarantee the majority would take the automatic playoff berth. There will be some, primarily likely older college football fans, who will say, I'll take the historic win over the rival and no playoff. But I guarantee the majority of fans would take the playoff berth. So here's my question. Let's change that up. Let's make it a different set of circumstances. It is once again I, Rob Brown, the magical football genie. And I come to you with two options. Option number one, I can declare you conference champion. And as conference champion, you're going in, but you're going in, I don't know, you're going in to the playoffs as a 12 seed. Or you're not conference champion, but you're going in as the 5 seed. We've talked about the advantages of being the 5 seed. You got to play at home. Sure. You got to play at home, but you get to play at home. You got to play the extra game, but it's at the house. And if you win that game, you get the 4 seed in the next round. You get the lowest seeded conference champ. Which of those would you rather take? I guarantee you're winning the SEC, the ACC, the Big 10, the Big 12, whatever conference you're in. I guarantee you're winning that. But you are catching the hardest path through the playoffs. You're on the road in round 1. You got the 1 seed in round 2. You've got likely the highest remaining seeds in round 3 and 4 and the finals, right? Which of those are you taking? Would you sacrifice a conference championship in order to make the easiest possible path? I would say the answer is probably yes, right? And for the record, before you think I'm crazy, who's done that this year? Notre Dame. Notre Dame's got the 5 seed. Likely, more than likely. Notre Dame's got the 5 seed. There's a chance they don't, but it's very small. Notre Dame's going to get the 5 seed. And if Notre Dame gets the 5 seed, they're going to get in round number 1, the last team in, which is, if it's Clemson, the Tigers going up to South Bend, Indiana. And I know it gets chilly here in December, but y'all ain't seen Indiana cold in the middle of December. It sucks. I have. It's miserable.
Second major snowstorm coming through, I think, this weekend up there. So, yeah.
It's going to be miserable, dude. So the Clemson Tigers, and by the way, because y'all love some snow football, have a great time in South Bend, Indiana, boys. Have a great time telling me how tough you are up in South Bend, Indiana in the middle of damn December. I got a sneaky suspicion a lot of y'all ain't flying up to that game. But we'll see. We'll see. Notre Dame is not playing in a conference championship game. They're going to catch the 5 seed. They're going to host in the first round against the last team in. And then they're going to catch probably the lowest remaining. They will catch the, if they win that game, the 4 seed in round 2, which is likely going to be Boise State. If Clemson gets in, it'll likely be Boise State. So Notre Dame's got Clemson coming to South Bend for the first round. Then a neutral site matchup against the Boise State Broncos in round 2. As Jim Harbaugh says, who's got it better than us? That's the easiest path, at least through the first 2 rounds, with all due respect to Clemson. It wouldn't be easy if that was a neutral site game, but if I get them Tigers coming up to South Bend, Indiana, to play in 17 and snow, I'll take that advantage every time, right? Because most of the guys on that roster are Midwestern boys. They grew up in that weather. Most of the guys on Clemson's roster ain't. It's a world of difference. So this is exactly my point. If we do away with the auto bids and we just say, hey, stack them, rack them, play a 12-team season, and we take the 12 best teams, that's fine. But there are no more conference championship games. If I was the ACC, I would shut that conference championship game down immediately. Because while it gets Clemson in this year, or if it gets SMU in this year, it's costing you a second bid either way, right? If there wasn't one, maybe you get SMU and Miami in at the cost of Clemson, but you get 2 in. Right now, after what Ward Manuel said yesterday, there's a very good possibility Clemson beats SMU, SMU drops behind Alabama, and the ACC only gets its champ in. How much pressure is on the ACC at that point? The night after they get their asses kicked and they got to say to the SEC, you own us in basketball now too, the one thing we used to have. Are you playing a conference championship at that point? My answer is hell to the no. No. All right. You got some more text, 71307. Start your text with fan. We'll react to them when we come back. The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It is the Fan Upstate. It maybe shouldn't carry that much without Saban, Zach, but, and we talked about this yesterday, Nielsen ratings-wise, like 70% of college football viewership was generated over the past 10 years by like 9 schools, and Bama was at the top of that list. It doesn't matter what they should be. Now, if people stop watching without Saban, that'll change, but we'll see. Give me 45 seconds. I'll be right back. All right, we're back. Thanks for hanging in there, y'all. Yep.
But they're nice and cold. For a while, they did it out in the parking lot.
I think they are, aren't they?
No, here. In the parking lot.
Oh.
They're outside in front of the well now, but they did it here for a long time.
That's why only Lowe's MVP's Pro Rewards members can get a volume discount on eligible orders as low as $1,500 at the Pro Desk. That means you get the prices you need to start any job, small or large, because Lowe's knows pros. Valid in-store only. More terms and restrictions apply. Visit Lowe's.com/terms or Pro Desk for details.
Where can I pick up a flamethrower?
I don't know.
No reason.
It'd be kind of awesome though. I just sent you something else too. But yeah,
I saw that last night.
Yeah, that's
some of her videos are like the stuff she's physically capable of doing are
you
ridiculous.
need to let her win some. That'd be nice. Her wrestling.
I'm like 2 weeks behind on NXT. I got to catch up by this afternoon or by 9:20.
Yeah, because we will be talking about the PLE, but mostly we're talking New Day.
A man has sustained serious injuries after leaping to the rescue of his wife, who was ambushed by a polar bear in an early morning attack in Ontario, Canada.
So what did he do when he leapt to?
I don't know, but I'm going to go ahead and say, wifey better be real nice to my boy for a couple of weeks, months, years. Texter said, as a Clemson fan, I disagree with a team's inability to move up. If you're a Clemson fan, you're very in favor of the auto bids right now. Very in favor of the auto bids, because the auto bid is the only way that you are going dancing in the end of December. It's the only way you're going dancing. So Clemson fans, very much in favor of the auto bids. Otherwise, you wouldn't be there, right? So I get what you're saying, but again, what are you worried about? In this scenario, what I am arguing here is that Clemson would be a team who does have the ability to move up. Let me be very clear about the take that I had earlier. The take that I had earlier was no team who participates in a conference championship game should be jumped by a team who does not. So what I'm saying is nobody that is ranked behind Clemson, with the exception of UNLV, should be able to jump Clemson this weekend. On the flip side, teams that win their conference championship game should be allowed to jump teams who A, lose theirs, or B, do not participate in theirs. So the list of teams that I think should be eligible to move up this weekend. Oregon will be on that list, but they can't move up. They're at the very top. But Penn State should be eligible to move up this weekend if they win the Big Ten championship game. UNLV and Boise State should be eligible to move up. Tulane and Army should be eligible to move up. Iowa State and Arizona State, Georgia and Texas, Penn State and Oregon, Clemson and SMU. That's it. That's the list. Those teams should be eligible to move up this weekend. No one else should. And no team that I did not just list, or excuse me, no team that I did not just list should be eligible to move up. If I didn't say your name, and I am talking about Bama, and I am talking about Ole Miss, and all due respect, I'm talking about South Carolina. No team should be eligible to move up without a certifiable reason that is directly connected to the conference championship game. I asked this question yesterday. I'll ask it again today. Do you think, for instance, if you're a South Carolina Gamecock fan, do you think you should be rooting for Clemson this weekend? I think the answer is yeah. I think if you're a Gamecock fan, you should be rooting for Clemson to go win by 90. Why? Because it boosts your...
I think your mouth should be washed out with
Hang
soap.
on. Let me make my argument
I mean,
first.
I get the argument.
Because you're coming at it from a fan perspective.
Yeah, but you were speaking to the fans.
I understand. But I am telling the fans why they should not approach this from a fan perspective. Because there's only one way. There's only one way that South Carolina could theoretically, and it's not going to happen. Before I even say it, let me clear the air on this. Not going to happen. But here's the best hope that South Carolina could jump Ole Miss and Alabama and Miami. Here's the best hope. The best hope you have is that the Clemson Tigers in the ACC championship game on Saturday night, 8 p.m., Bank of America Stadium, Charlotte, North Carolina. Your only hope is that Clemson goes and wins that game by 50. If Clemson goes and wins that game by 50, then your road win at Clemson looks a hell of a lot better. Ward Manuel has been saying the word data points on end for weeks now. Clemson's or South Carolina's win on the road at Clemson is a data point right now, right? It is a data point. It's why you're at 14 and not further back. If it is a data point, then I would make the argument that that data point can be improved. And not just be improved, but improved with recency, like improved now. If Clemson goes and beats SMU by 50 this weekend, I mean, they just ragdoll them, then does not South Carolina's win on the road at Clemson at the end of the year, a team that was a top 12 team to end the year, doesn't that immediately look that much better? If Clemson goes and beats the number 8 team in the country by 50, than South Carolina's win 7 days before that, now it is objectively that much better of a win as far as the eye test goes. The week after you went to their house and beat them, they went to a neutral site and beat the number 8 team in the world by 50 points. That would be saying something for South Carolina. So while as a fan, it might make you nauseous to pull for Clemson on Saturday night, if there is any chance for South Carolina's resume to be polished up without playing this weekend, because I know that Ward Manuel said 2 days ago that teams that are not playing this weekend cannot improve their standards. Remember that? We played it literally yesterday, literally 24 hours ago. We played you the audio of Ward Manuel saying teams that do not play this weekend cannot improve. But then 24 hours later, he said the opposite. 24 hours later. No, he didn't directly say, we changed our mind, yes, they can. But he did say that SMU could drop behind Alabama. Well, if SMU drops behind Alabama, Alabama has improved their positioning, right? Am I bananas over here?
Well, the whole point when he said no one can improve, they absolutely can. If people if teams completely drop out, some are going to move up. But,
right.
Yeah,
but that is the exact opposite of what he said 24 hours ago.
As I said yesterday, you read it one way or you heard it one way and I heard it a different way. He didn't say.
He said teams cannot improve that are not playing this weekend. That's what he said.
But he didn't.
Word for word.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? Is that not what he said? I'll go find the sound.
Again,
that's what he said.
I just didn't hear it that way. I just didn't. And I heard the audio. I was here. I was paying attention. I was here.
I again, like this is where I'm going to have a problem.
Let me put it this way. It didn't make sense because if teams that lose definitely have a shot to move out of the top 12, which would move some teams up.
So teams can improve.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. That's exactly the opposite of what he said.
Well,
it is by definition. You cannot move a team down without moving a team up, which means that if you move a team up, they are improving their positioning. And if they can move up without playing this weekend, then what Ward Manuel said is crap. That's not true. Teams can improve. Now, teams cannot hang on.
He didn't sound certain in his speaking. There was hesitation there, like maybe he said the wrong thing.
I mean, that sounds like a him problem.
It
does.
That
sounds like a him problem. Now, I will give him this because there was another way that he phrased it, Lonzo. The other way that he phrased it, and I think we can meet in the middle on this. The other way that he phrased it was he said, teams that do not play this weekend cannot be evaluated any further. That I'm fine with.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay?
But
then he said they can't improve. That's a different sentence. I am fine with they can't be evaluated any further. And I agree with that.
You just got to believe that a team could stink it up so bad that they could drop far enough that some teams will move up.
And that's what so here's my thing. And this is why I'm saying that. Gamecock fans have to be rooting for Clemson, not just to win this weekend, but to win by 100.
Come on, dude.
No. I'm not saying they will. I'm saying you should, logically speaking. And this is where if you want your team in, you got to put your fandom a million miles away and look at this from a pragmatic and rational stance. Pragmatically speaking, rationally speaking, if you're a Gamecock fan, you're rooting for Clemson to win by 100 points for two reasons. Number one, Ward Manuel said SMU could drop behind Bama. And if they can drop behind Bama, why can't they drop behind South Carolina, who has in my opinion, better resume than Bama? The only difference being Bama beat them, right? So SMU could drop out behind South Carolina. And number two, if Clemson wins by 100, what they're not going to do is jump ahead of South Carolina. And if they do, it is sheer rank hypocrisy from the committee, because the whole premise of South Carolina being behind Ole Miss, who they are a better football team than, have a better strength of schedule against, have a better resume than, have better losses and better wins than Ole Miss. The reason Ole Miss is ahead of South Carolina is what? The head-to-head. So if the head-to-head matters that much, and the committee has said that it does, based on these rankings, If the head-to-head matters that much, they can't put Clemson ahead of South Carolina. They can only simply dump them right in behind them. Although Clemson would have the auto bid, it doesn't matter. The point is, Clemson, the best they can do is come up to 15. But if they beat SMU by 100, SMU could fall down to 15 or worse. And because, again, head-to-head matters, you would have to put them behind Clemson, which puts them at 16. And what does that do? That clears not one, but two spaces out ahead of the South Carolina Gamecocks, and maybe, just maybe, with some chaos in other places, maybe, just maybe, they could slip into that 11 spot with Clemson getting the 12 spot and having to play on the road. You would too, but the point here is that only happens if Clemson wins by 100. So here's your options. You can be the rival and go, I hope Clemson loses, and that's all well and good, but nothing changes, and you are definitely not it. Or you can put the fandom aside for a night, hope Clemson wins by 100, and you have a shot. It's a Powerball lottery shot. But this is the college football playoffs. I will take a Powerball lottery shot before I take no shot at all.
I believe the playoffs are set. The order is just we're going to figure out the order this weekend. I'm glad that you're trying to spread hope to the Gamecocks, but they're not getting in.
I agree. I don't think you're getting in. But again, yes, I will acknowledge that on behalf of the Gamecock fans, I am grasping for straws here. Anywhere I can find one, I'm going to grab that straw. And the only straw, there is one straw.
Yeah, you're leaping for that straw.
I am. I'm trying to LeBron up and grab that thing at the rim. And I ain't touched a rim in a very long time. Very long time. But if I'm jumping up, grabbing for a straw, I see one. And the only straw, and I'm doing this off of the words of Ward Manuel. The only straw I can find is Ward Manuel saying teams that, and I'll even give him the credit and not beat him over the head with this. I'll give him the credit and use the phrase that he said that is true as opposed to the one that he said that isn't true. When he said teams can't improve this weekend, that's incorrect. They absolutely can. The one he said that is true is teams cannot be evaluated any further if they're not playing this weekend. Okay, fine. Can't evaluate them any further. Although I even disagree with that. Because again, if Clemson wins by 90, South Carolina's win over Clemson by default, has to look more impressive, right? Because now, whether the committee factors this in or not is irrelevant. At that point, South Carolina will have beaten a top 12 team, a Power 5 conference champion, and done it on the road. If that happened, if anybody else, if Bama did this, you don't think they'd be hearkening this like a herald of old? They would be screaming about how this is the reason why Bama's in. If they were to beat a Power 5 conference champion on the road, that was a top 12 team to end the season. It would be the reason they justify putting Bama in, but not South Carolina, right? So I don't know if the committee will figure it into their numbers, their votes, or whatever. But if Clemson wins by 90, you're fine. You have two things. Number one, SMU theoretically could drop behind you and should, because Clemson, based on the fact that Ole Miss is ranked ahead of South Carolina, Clemson can't jump South Carolina because they lost to them. And that's the reason South Carolina's behind Ole Miss and Alabama. So Clemson can only move to 15, and SMU theoretically has to move behind them, which means that that's two teams, two spots that aren't filled up above them. There's South Carolina jumping up a couple of spots. And it puts a little shine on that end of season rivalry win, a road win over a top 12 team and a Power 5 conference champion. There is one straw, and it's 70 feet in the air. But as I said earlier, I will take a Powerball lottery ticket's chance to get in before I take no chance at all. So if you want to pull against Clemson on Saturday night, because your fandom outweighs your desire for even a Powerball chance to get into the playoffs, okay, you're a fan. You're a fan above all else. And I get that. I understand that. But if you want a Powerball lottery chance to get in, you need Clemson to win by 40. You need them to go out there and drag SMU. That's the only shot. All right. Water cooler cheat sheet coming up in the next hour. We'll take your phone calls at 844-FANFONE. All that and more after the golden voice of sports. Lonzo reads you this sports flash.
I'll be watching Saturday night to watch SMU win because I predicted, and more importantly, to watch Clemson lose. The Duke Blue Devils knocked off the Auburn Tigers in a top 10 showdown at Cameron Indoor last night. Cooper Flagg led the Blue Devils with 22 points and 11 boards, and Isaiah Evans recorded 18 points off the bench. The number one men's basketball team in America was upset last night as the Creighton Blue Jays knocked off the Kansas Jayhawks 76-63. Kansas shot just 35% from the floor and 8 of 23 from deep, while Creighton shot 47% and 41% respectfully. Number 10, Alabama knocked off number 20 North Carolina last night, 94-79. Alabama kept North Carolina to less than 18% from three and shot nearly 50% from the floor. Tune in this Saturday at 11:30 a.m. as the Furman Paladins take on the Princeton Tigers. It's Furman versus Princeton right here on your home for Furman Paladins basketball. The Fan, Upstate. See, I agree with Rob about this. If Clemson loses, they're out of the playoffs. If SMU loses, I still think that they're in. The only way Clemson continues is if they win. SMU has a shot to stay in there.
AMWupstate.com or call 864-499-8853. That's 864-499-8853. And remember, the best windows are American made.
Are you going to start the new year dealing with the same old joint pain, not being able to do what you love to do because of your knees or your hips? Well, don't. You don't have to. Take action now to get the pain relief you deserve in 2025. Say goodbye to shoulder and back pain with QC Kinetics. Their local medical professionals are waiting for you, and their advanced protocols in regenerative medicine have helped tens of thousands of people. I am talking lasting relief. Imagine a new year without those aching joints, no more pain pills, no more steroid shots. QC Kinetics uses the healing properties of your own body to attack the root cause of your pain, revitalizing your joints so you can move again without pain. This is the future of medicine. So if you've been told surgery is your best or only option, when you deserve a second opinion, find out if all natural regenerative medicine is right for you by calling QC Kinetics. The consultation is for you.
Hey, come around here real quick. Maybe you know how to fix this. I asked Chris, but all right. So he moved 2 over here. I moved it back over there, but see how it's bigger? How do I make that box the same size as 1? Do you know?
Hang on.
So you don't know. I can just wait for Chris because I'm guessing that Ben did it, but I don't know. I don't want to mess anything up. Yeah, here's Chris. Chris can.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remembered how to flip my Cool Edit back to recording off my sound card, so I didn't.
All right.
Yesterday.
Someone made that display bigger than the other one.
Oh yeah, I see.
How do I make it?
So either change the it's this resolution right here. See, it says
Okay.
those numbers aren't going to mean anything to you, but there should be a recommended.
So I don't know if it was Ben or Diesel, but I'm going to go with Ben. I think that.
Is it better?
Yeah, no, that did it.
Okay. Keep that change. These might be the older monitors that don't use 1080p, which I don't like, and I'm trying to get rid of.
So that means you're switching our monitors to touchscreens?
Not these.
But this one though? Just this one?
I could if you want a touchscreen over here.
Yes,
I had considered that a while ago.
that would be amazing.
And I have, I think, spare touchscreen.
A sound screen, touchscreen would be the greatest thing that's ever happened in my life.
Screen?
Well, for my soundboard, a touchscreen where I could.
Oh yes. So
where I could
that
just-
actually was.
Actually, I would Probably.
on
Do
the
these
bottom
don't
one?
extend
Yeah.
out, do they?
Yeah, when you reach over and stub your finger, I'm gonna be laughing
Okay.
because
I
you're
mean,
just
I
gonna
would-
go like
I would
this.
I would
That
just
was
put the soundboard here.
That was a concept.
That would be the most amazing thing. I wouldn't ask you a question for like 3 days. I wouldn't ask you. Good, you shouldn't.
He's gonna break a
But I would
finger.
tell you it.
He's
if
gonna
that's
break
what
his
it does.
finger if you do that.
No, I wouldn't.
You are gonna reach over real quick.
You're
You're gonna reach over real quick. You're gonna hit it wrong.
I
You're gonna
won't make
stub your
Ryobi
finger.
jokes if you give me a touchscreen monitor. I won't make jokes about you guys having Ryobi power tools. And away we go with our numero dos of the Rob Brown Show right here on the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the Great Lonzo, and you, and the show belongs to you. 844-FANFO, 844-326-3663. That is the number to the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone. I want you on that phone today. And BT Dubs, my dudes, you basically have this hour, and if you don't get in this hour, you will have to wait till 9 o'clock because we are clock locked and loaded during the 8 o'clock hour. We have Lulu Kesin at 8 o'clock in the morning. We have got Rashad Beard at 8:40 in the AM. And because we like to go a little late with Lulu Kesin, a little early with Rashad Beard, that middle segment, very short segment. So that means the 8 o'clock hour is booked up. You want in on the phones? If you have a gripe about the college football playoffs, if there's a storyline in the National Football League that you would like to get to, if you would like to make fun of LeBron and the Lakers by losing by 41 last night, this team sucks now, which is odd because they had a real good start. And now they just they don't even try. It's the most heartless, gutless team I've ever seen.
They're out of that midseason tournament and they wanted to repeat, and now they just have nothing to play for. So they're going to have to find motivation, like maybe, that trophy at the end of the maybe that. Also, by the way, I just want to point out, and this is very important for anyone listening right now who loves TSO, we're giving those tickets away again today. So
win, Lonzo.
I'm just saying, I believe 820.
820.
That's what I believe. 820. Yeah, I think that's what we're shooting for. That can change if I wanted to, but I'm trying to remember if that's where that break is. I'm pretty sure it's 820.
Tickets to go see Trans-Siberian Orchestra coming up at 8:20 a.m. Make sure you are locked into the Rob Brown Show for your chance to go see an absolute rock and roll show.
People have been trying really hard, and I feel bad that we can't give it away to everybody. But, I mean, phone lines lit up, and so just be ready around that time, and you don't necessarily have to be the fastest to get in there. You just got to be whatever number that I decide. And
your chance to win, baby.
Yeah.
Coming up in just a little over an hour. Make sure you were here. All right. I have got comments in the chat from Jacob, from another Jacob, from Frank, from Steven. I've got text on the text line at 71307. Start your text with FAN-FAN. FAN-FAN. We'll read them on the air. Keep them coming. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, in the next segment, I'm going to respond to all of them, okay? That's what we'll do. In the next segment, if you send me a text right now at 71307, if you send me a great text, if you touch us textually in a good way, you'll get the Gold Horn Celly. So now's your opportunity. 71307, start your text with FAN-FAN, or join us in the live stream, facebook.com/the-fan-upstate, the Fan Upstate on YouTube, the Fan Upstate on Facebook, or the Rob Brown Show on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. All the different ways to get in touch with the radio program.
Quit saying touch. I mean, that's been your word today. You want them to touch us textually? That's just like so ill. Okay. I don't.
Reach out and touch me.
So you went with Depeche Mode and not the Divinals, which is where I thought you might be going.
Anybody else When I think about text. All right, nope, stop right there. That wasn't right. That wasn't good. That wasn't okay. All right, it is just after 7 o'clock in the morning. You have less than 55 minutes until you got to get your sleepy butt up and into the office this AM. And once you're done responding to those passive-aggressive texts that the boss sent you last night at like 11:15, expecting that you were going to pop onto the laptop and do some work, you weren't. We know it, and that's okay because you had to get up early and listen to the Rob Brown Show. You're going to talk about sports. And if you got to talk about sports, you got to know what's going on in the world of sports. And if you got to know what's going on in the world of sports, ladies and gentlemen, worry not. We are here for you because we do this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying, take their first bathroom break.
No.
Here we go. Welcome to the water cooler cheat sheet on the Fan Upstate.
Yes, I hesitated on purpose for timing.
I was going to do it, but, you know. Water cooler cheat sheet, top 3 sports stories that you need to know before you get to the office and start talking sports. This lovely upstate Thursday morning, let us dive right in with item number 1. Let's start with this one. A day after it was announced that Houston Texans linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair was suspended 3 games for leveling Trevor Lawrence and giving him a concussion, that has been confirmed. It was confirmed because of the reason this is on the cheat sheet. Trevor Lawrence is done for the season. He has been sent to the injured reserve. No real shock there because the Jaguars are 2-10. Shockingly, I do not think that there is a playoff run comeback in the Jacksonville Jaguars at 2-10. Trevor Lawrence will miss at least 4 games. The Jags have only 5 games remaining, meaning that it's unlikely Trevor Lawrence comes back for just the season finale. It also means that Lawrence could potentially have corrective surgery on his shoulder. Why? Because this is the 6th injury that Trevor Lawrence has suffered. That has been reported since week 6 of the 2023 season. He has also dealt with another concussion. He is on his 2nd shoulder injury. He has a knee injury and an ankle injury. He has missed only 1 game last season, did miss 2 games this season before being placed on injured reserve yesterday. Lawrence hurt his left shoulder at the first half of the Jags game on November 3rd against Philly, but did not miss a snap in that game. In fact, almost led the Jags to a come-from-behind victory until throwing a pick with 1:38 remaining. Threw that pick in the end zone. By the way, he did miss the next 2 games, but returned to practice November 25th. Wanted to return to the field. Wasn't ruling out having surgery on his non-throwing shoulder in season, but decided that he was going to give it a go against the Texans. He was 4 of 10 for 41 yards and a pick before he got concussed with 4 minutes, 20 seconds remaining in the first half. And now that hit by Al-Shaair is going to end the 2024 season for Trevor Lawrence. And honestly, probably for the best. Probably for the best. The Jags were doing nothing. That offense stank. Trevor Lawrence is now going to go have the opportunity to have some extra rehab time, to get the surgery done that he needs done, to fully rehab, and to start next year with a new head coach, which it feels to me is desperately needed.
Injury prone?
It's a fair criticism at this point to make. 6 injuries in effectively 1 NFL season, because it happened week 6. It's these things started racking up week 6 of last year, and it comes to its conclusion in week, what are we in, 14 or 13 of the NFL season this year. So you were talking about a length of time that is just a little bit over a full NFL season, that he has had a half a dozen injuries that have impacted him so far. Now, not all of those injuries have caused him to miss time, but the 2 he's dealing with right now, the shoulder and the concussion, do. I would point out, though, that consistently the Jacksonville Jaguars offensive line is ranked at the bottom of offensive lines across the NFL. I mean, consistently, they're at the bottom over the past 3 years. Consistently, that offensive line has been at the bottom of the NFL's offensive line rankings. And I think if there's one thing you can take away from guys like Jaden Daniels, guys like Bryce Young, guys like Baker Mayfield, when you stick them behind a good offensive line, those numbers come up. It's not saying that they're Pro Bowlers. It's not saying that they're Hall of Famers. It's saying that if you look at guys that, even if you're a critic of Trevor Lawrence, which is fair, even if you're a critic, I got to say Trevor Lawrence there's no reason Trevor Lawrence can't do what Baker Mayfield's doing. There's no reason Trevor Lawrence can't do what Bryce Young's been doing the last 4 weeks. There's no reason that Trevor Lawrence can't do what Geno Smith is doing, but you got to put him behind an offensive line, and the Jags have failed to do that the last few seasons. I think that has got to be priority numero uno for the Jags this offseason. Find yourself a new coach. Find yourself a new general manager. Do nothing but draft offensive linemen. Trevor's got one more shot at making it in the NFL if they do those things. Let's get to item number 2. Men's college basketball was a heater last night, an absolute wagon of a night. Let's start all the way at the top. The number 1 ranked Kansas Rock Chalk Jayhawk took an L last night at the hands of the 6-3 Creighton Blue Jays. The Jays held Kansas to 35.5% from the floor, 34.8%. They shot just as good from range as they did from the field. On the flip side, the Jays shot 47.2% from the floor, 41.4% from 3, going 12 of 29. They had 17 free throw efforts compared to, how about this, 8 free throws for the Kansas Jayhawks. 8. You know what that tells me? It tells me the Kansas Jayhawks are not attacking the rack. It tells me they're not going to the bucket and trying to pick up some fouls there. 8 free throw attempts. Kansas knocked down 5. The Blue Jays hit 14 of 17. That was not the only big game that took place last night in college basketball. We had a top 10 showdown, one of 2 wins that the Atlantic Coast Conference stacked together in the ACC SEC Challenge. The number 9 Duke Blue Devils at Cameron Indoor got the better of the Auburn Tigers. 84-78 was your final. 22 off of maybe the most compelling player in basketball this year, Cooper Flagg, but he was lined up against the guy that is likely this year's player of the year, Johnny Broome. Broome was 8 of 18 from the floor, had 20 points outdueled by Cooper Flagg, who was 7 of 18, but 8 of 12 from the stripe, including 6 clutch free throws at the end of the second half that allowed Duke to maintain their league flag. Also recorded 11 rebounds in this game. Here's the interesting thing. In just about every metric, Auburn actually outperformed the Blue Devils. They had more rebounds than Duke. They had more assists than Duke. They had the same amount of fouls. They did have more turnovers, and that was the game. Auburn was electric out of the gate, and then they just fell apart. Alabama got the better of North Carolina. That's number 10, knocking off number 20, 94-79. This Alabama team is built different, y'all. This Alabama team is a fight. They were my national championship pick last year, and they might be again this year. This team is different. 4 of 5 starters for the Crimson Tide ended up in double digits. The one starter who did not end up in double digits was Sharon Stevenson, who is a guy that's going to be checked in and out a lot of the rotation. He had just 6. But it was made up for by Aiden Holloway coming off the bench with 15, Darian Reed coming off the bench with 11. This Alabama team is an absolute wagon, one of the most electrifying offenses you have seen in a long time. They also held North Carolina to just 5 of 28 from behind the arc last night. A pretty spectacular showing for the Tide. Number 25, UConn knocked off number 15, Baylor, 76-72 last night. And the other big upset in the SEC ACC Challenge, Mississippi State, unranked, knocked off number 18 Pitt. It's not just that they beat them. It's the fact they beat them by 33 points, 90-57 last night. The Pitt Panthers shot just 31% from the floor, whereas Mississippi State shot 58% from the floor. That's a stupid number. They also out-rebounded Pitt 49-27. That is embarrassing for the Pitt Panthers, who dropped to 7-2. There's some of your biggest basketball scores from last night. Let's very quickly get to item number 3. I told you back in the first hour of the show that I had a nice little revelation last night because, I'd been kind of getting to the point where I was second guessing myself a little bit on this brand versus resume controversy that's going around the landscape of college football. I started that war cry after Florida State got left out last year. And a bunch of you guys said, "Oh, Rob Brown, you're just a Florida boy. He was a little up in his fifis that a Florida team got knocked out." I said, no, it's not that. It's about the fact that precedent has been set that is going to allow the committee from this point forward evermore to bump out lesser teams in order to make room for the brands. And when I say the brands, I am talking about the fact that according to Nielsen ratings, 70% of college football viewership over the last decade has been driven by about 8 teams. Georgia's in that mix. Ohio State's in that mix. Alabama is in that mix. Now, as Lonzo pointed out, and this is absolutely justified and correct, it is because those teams are good. But I also make the argument that this is a circular reasoning, right? Yeah, those teams are good, but when those teams are good and they get more TV time, what does it do? It attracts more players to be there. It attracts better recruits. It attracts more money. And when you have better recruits and more money, what do? You stay good. And if you stay good, what do? You stay getting TV time. It is a vicious circle that is, I'm not going to say impossible to break into, but it feels impossible for anybody to break into long term. Well, Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark, is now on the brand v. resume bandwagon as well. He was on a Zoom call yesterday ahead of the Big 12 championship game that sees a pair of 10-2 teams squaring off the 15th ranked Arizona State Sun Devils, the 16th ranked Iowa State Cyclones. Well, Yormark was lamenting the fact that the 2 teams in the Big 12 championship game, are outside of the top 12 in the latest college football playoff rankings, are behind 3 SEC teams with 3 losses, Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina. Yormark said on a Zoom call, quote, "The selection committee continues to show time and time again that they are paying attention to logos versus resumes." He went on to say that strength of schedule should matter and wins against Power 4 opponents should matter. 74% of the Big 12 wins were against Power 4 opponents this season. Meanwhile, the group of 5 is 11-80. In no way should a group of 5 champion be ranked above our champions. Of course, the Boise State Blue Turf Broncos are inside the top 10. And if they were to win the Mountain West Conference Championship game against UNLV this weekend, a team that they have already beat on the road, if they were to beat the UNLV this weekend, Boise State would catch a bye. They would catch an auto bid. The ACC and the Big 12 would be fighting for number 4. If SMU wins it, they'd get the bye. If Clemson wins it, they would likely not get the bye unless they jump the Big 12 champion by decimating SMU. I don't know how it's going to work out. That's why we're watching the games this weekend. But Brett Yormark, a conference commissioner, now saying he believes the committee is more about brands than results. We'll talk more about this when we come back in the next segment. You guys have sent a ton of texts and a ton of comments on the stream. I'm going to respond to those when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Great friends.
All right, guys, one more ride and we're back. If you got comments, leave them in the chat. I'll respond when we come back. Stay right there.
is up, friends? It's Rob Brown. I hope you're enjoying the show. If you're not, I don't know why you're here, but I am glad that you are. Hey, do us a favor. Whether you're enjoying it or not, would you mind sharing this around your social media, please? And thank you, Twitter, X, whatever you call it. I don't care. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, it doesn't matter to me. Help us get the good word out. We're trying to get famous and rich, and we can't do it without your help. So, The Rob Brown Show is on all social media, or share the YouTube channel, the Facebook page, wherever you're watching this, and we'd appreciate it very much. Now, let's get back to the show. Stick around.
I do like to imagine. It's the reason that I put that the bumper sticker on his Bronco for and just didn't say anything about
Also
it.
very
Because I knew at some point in the future there would be a particular reaction, and even though I wouldn't be there to witness it, I knew exactly what that reaction was.
Well, I was, and it was glorious. I will tell you, it was just, I was standing over there. And it's like he started listening to him, was like, please, please.
You kind of got to experience the call that I got from Rob when he found the bumper sticker. It was very much the same.
Oh, he immediately grabbed his phone and ran out the door after he heard it. So.
Yeah, I'll so officially I think you need to make that request for
Okay.
I'll
Okay. Thank you. All right. Got a bunch of text. Got a bunch of stream comments. Facebook.com/TheFanUpstate, The Fan Upstate on YouTube, or The Rob Brown Show on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Join our live stream. We are live all 4 hours every single day that we feel like it. So join us on the live stream, and we do have an active, ongoing chat with other members of the Rob Brown Show Armada. So when you come by, it's not just watching the dashingly handsome faces of Rob and Lonzo, but you can actually interact and engage with other members of the Armada in the chat. You can ask questions that we will respond to both on and off the air. We also have the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone going 844-326-3663, and our text line at 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them on the air. Let's respond to some of the text that you guys have sent in and some of this Facebook and stream comments you guys have sent in. Texter said, Rob, rank my Bulldogs, cowards. Hail State. I like it. It's a great, that's not just a good win for Mississippi State. That is a great win.
All right.
For the Bulldogs.
You're just going to be handing these out willy-nilly?
No, that's not for the text. That's for the Hail State Bulldogs for the dub in general.
Okay, all right.
That's for the dub in general. You know what? We might have to have like a celly for the text and then a celly for things in sports. Nah. It needs to be exclusive. It does.
Yeah, it does.
Texter said, Rob, here's an idea. How about those bubble teams that aren't playing this weekend? Play a play-in game like the MLB. Ole Miss v. Bama, USC v. Miami. Aren't you just at that point, aren't you just expanding the playoffs? Right? You're just expanding the playoffs, which is why I think we are going to end up going to a 16-team playoff.
It would also diminish the championship games to a degree, wouldn't it?
I mean, again, yes. But I'm also going to say that if SMU loses this weekend and they're dropped behind Bama, doesn't that diminish the playoff or the championship game a little bit? I mean, like, I already feel like the playoff game, the conference championship games are diminished. I don't think anybody cares about winning a conference championship if they have to trade it for a playoff win. I think they would. I know I would trade a conference championship game win for a guaranteed ticket to the playoffs, right? Like, I know I would. I think Bama is happy to trade winning the SEC to be the last team in and get an opportunity to play. But we'll see. Texter said, Rob, there's just no straws for South Carolina as an SMU loss gives their spot to Clemson, and South Carolina can't jump Bama because of head-to-head. No, I'm aware of that. South Carolina is where they are because of head-to-head losses, not just to Bama, but to Ole Miss, to Lane Kiffin and his Rebels as well. The argument that I'm making is Clemson gives a spot to SMU in terms of the ACC being one of the 5 highest ranked conference champions. Remember, it's 5 highest ranked conference champions and it's 7 next best highly ranked teams. My argument is that when Warren Manuel said yesterday, when asked, could SMU fall behind Bama, his answer was, yes, possibly, we'll see, which is his way of saying, bleep, yeah, they can. Absolutely, they can. Well, if SMU can fall behind Bama, my argument is going to be they have to fall behind Ole Miss and South Carolina. Now, I am going to acknowledge that's probably not true. And it's probably not true because Miami got wedged in between Bama and Ole Miss and South Carolina. And this is why I asked the question yesterday. Yet one more reason. I asked the question yesterday, can someone give me a valid reason why Miami got behind Bama but ahead of Ole Miss and South Carolina? Because the whole premise of the argument about those three Southeastern Conference teams is how similar they are. Ole Miss and Bama both beat South Carolina heads up, but South Carolina has more ranked wins. They had a tougher strength of schedule. They have a better resume, and they had a better win than both of them combined to end the season. So it became a debate about body of work versus heads-up wins. And the committee decided between those three teams that heads-up win is the final criteria to separate them. Now, I can't argue with that. It's hard for me to say that a heads-up win should be dismissed. However, what I will say is you still got to explain why Miami got dropped ahead of Ole Miss and South Carolina, but not Alabama. It doesn't make any sense to me, right? So perhaps they would drop SMU ahead of Miami, right behind Bama, and say, you lost your conference championship game, but we're going to put you in this spot because there's still a chance that you could fight your way in. If there ends up being two available at-large spots, then maybe there's a chance that you could end up in one of them. And that's your reward. I don't know. We'll see. But again, that is why I said South Carolina doesn't just need Clemson to win. They need Clemson to beat the brakes off of SMU. They need to beat them by 50 if they want a shot. Texter said, who potentially loses that allows a move up? SMU, because if they lose, Clemson takes their place, so no one moves up. Yet, Clemson does not take their place. This is the thing, I think, respectfully, this is, I think, a thing that people are missing. 5 highest-ranked champions does not mean you are placed inside the top 12. Remember, you can be, and we will likely have this scenario, right? You can be ranked outside of the top 12, but be the 4th or 5th ranked conference champion and still be in the top 12. There is actually a way that, and it would require quite a bit of chaos around the college football landscape, but there actually is a way that the teams that receive or a team that receives the bye, the 4th highest ranked college football conference champion, is outside the top 12. You could have a team that is ranked 13 or 14 still get a bye. That's very possible. So Clemson beating SMU does not mean that Clemson jumps into the top 12. They could honestly just move up to 15, right? The committee may go, we can't move them justifiably. We can't move them ahead of South Carolina because South Carolina literally not just beat them, but just beat them 7 days ago. Or in this case, next Tuesday, 10 days ago, whatever it is. But Clemson could move to 15, but still be in. Clemson moves to 15, still be in the playoffs and catch the 4th bye, or be the last team in at 12, right? It does not mean they are seeded that way. It's just the 5 highest conference champions, regardless of what their ranking is. That is why the last conference champion, that 5th ranked conference champion, there is a good chance that more often than not, they're the 12 seed. They're the last conference champion, but they are the 12 seed. Texter said, can you imagine the chaos if all lower seeds win conference championship games? Sounds fun. I can, because Lonzo asked me that question yesterday, and we actually drew out the bracket. The problem is we don't know what happens with SMU if they lose to Clemson. Do they stay around where they are? Do they drop down to 12 for a shot? Do they go ahead of Alabama at 11? Because where SMU lands shakes up the bottom anywhere from 2 to 3 seeds. So we did that yesterday. If you missed it, go to thefanupstate.com, and pull up yesterday's 4th hour of the show, because I actually wrote that bracket out. And again, you can get kind of far into it. You can figure out who the buys are. You can figure out who the 5, 6, and I think 7 seeds are. But 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 go up in the air because we don't know what the hell the committee's going to do. Texter said Clemson can't jump Georgia with a head-to-head. I don't think Clemson, if they win, gets anywhere close to 6. I think they, at best, they come up to 12. The question mark is, can they jump South Carolina with a head-to-head? Because if they do jump South Carolina, then at that point, now we have an argument about, okay, well, then why can't South Carolina jump Ole Miss? Is a conference championship the decision maker? All right, got a lot more text to get to, got a lot more comments in the stream. We will keep rolling through those when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Dan Hurley is a weirdo, dude. I was so on board with him last year, and this year I'm like, hey, you're kind of weird, bro. I'm gonna hit the head real quick. You want to take us to
2 minutes. Hurry.
Carolina Panthers with the snap of losing skip this Sunday with a road game at Philadelphia. The Eagles have won 8 in a row and sit atop the NFC East. Classic Rock 101.1 is your home for Carolina Panthers play-by-play all season long. Download the Odyssey app, search the Fan Upstate, and listen anywhere on your phone. I'm Chuck Sanders with the Sports Flash on the Fan Upstate.
Up to the minute Upstate traffic. The Cordell and Cordell traffic cam shows southbound 85 to be slated coming out of Spartanburg from Highway 29 Anthem to the 101. Elsewhere on 85, you're good to go in both directions. Downtown Spartanburg currently has no significant issues. Green, Washington Street is closed between Smythe and Randolph.
Smythe. Where the heck is Smythe?
Cyber Monday event for their lowest prices of the year. The future is on sale today with limited time deals on select PCs like the XPS 16 that accelerate AI with Intel Core Ultra processors. Cyber Monday is the biggest sale of the year and the best time to upgrade, but it's only here for a limited time. Shop now at Dell.com/deals. That's Dell.com/deals. Text us at 713.
Couple more texts, and then we'll get to the stream comments. Lefty Tiger texted the show and said, are we sure Clemson is winning in on Saturday? Yes, they would be one of the 5 highest-ranked champions. Now, would they get a bye, or would they go in as the 11 or 12 seed? That we don't know. We don't know if a win in the ACC title game would allow them to jump the three-loss SEC teams. Again, they lost head-to-head with South Carolina. You'd have to go a long way. And remember, South Carolina beat Clemson on the road. They only moved up 1 spot. South Carolina would have to move up 6 spots to get ahead of those teams. Can you justify moving them up that high when you just said the inverse, South Carolina beating a ranked team, a number 12 team, on the road, only moves them up 1 spot? Can you move? Doesn't matter. Clemson would be one of the top 5 ranked conference champions. And again, you could be, if you are the 5th ranked conference champion, the 5th highest ranked, and you're number 24, you're in the playoffs, right? That's the rule. 5 conference champs, 5 highest ranked conference champs all go in. Doesn't matter what their rankings are. You're in. Now, the top 4 get a bye. The 5th does not get a bye. They go into one of those at-large spots. So Clemson wins this game. They could go in as the number 4 seed with a bye if Boise State loses. That's on the table, assuming that they jump. But there's also the chance the Big 12 ends up with that bye, and Clemson's an at-large team. So we'll have to find out. But the answer is yes. If they win, they are in. Texture said Clemson possibly getting in is a moot point. I'm not seeing a chance in hell they beat SMU. Thoughts? I think there's absolutely a chance. SMU is favored in this game. SMU is favored in this game by 2.5 points, unless that line has moved. And I'll go ahead and check on that. I doubt that it has. That's probably about the line that I would set it at. But SMU this week has been riding being favored by 2.5 points. And I will say that via my conversation with some folks over at the BetQL Network, the common belief right now is that even though SMU is the home team on paper, Clemson is being treated as the home team because Charlotte is so close to the upstate. It is expected that this is going to be, and the line is still 2.5. It is expected that this is going to be an audience that's like 70% plus Clemson fans. So if that is true, and let's say they're just getting 3 points, then it says that Vegas believes Clemson is actually slightly better than SMU. That SMU is a touchdown better than Clemson, but they're giving them the 3 points of home field advantage. I don't know if that's true or not, but yes, SMU can beat Clemson for sure. That's why I said this is going to be a hell of a football game. That's why I'm going to the game, to be honest
So
with you.
we talked about yesterday about SMU hasn't really beat anybody. Is Clemson anybody?
I mean, they're top 20 team in the country.
But are they?
Yeah.
Are they?
What do you mean, are they? They are literally number 17 in the country.
No, I get that, but are they really competition compared to everybody else that SMU has played?
I don't think SMU has played anybody that is dramatically better. Their best win's Louisville. I don't think they've played anybody better than Clemson. I mean, now Louisville did beat Clemson, for the record, talking head to head. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything. We've seen a lot of circle of sucks as far as head to heads go. So yeah, but the reality is, I don't think I don't think SMU's played anybody better than Clemson so far. All right, let's see. Lefty Tiger says, give us that 12 spot. Let's go get blown out by Georgia again, then turn the heat up on Dabo's seat. I mean, that is a possibility. Georgia could end up being the 5 seed. I don't think they will. I think if Georgia loses, scratch that. Georgia's either going to be a bye team or the 6 seed, because I don't think there is a result that sees Georgia jump your current 5 seed of Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's going to be the 5 seed. If Clemson goes in as 12, they're likely on the road at Notre Dame. My question mark is, if they get blown out, if Clemson gets blown out in the first round, whether it's by Notre Dame or Georgia, either way would be on the road, either in South Bend or in Athens. If they get blown out in the first round, does the hot seat crank up on Dabo? That's a fair question to ask. I don't know. Does making it to the playoffs carry the same weight in a 12-team playoff that making it to the playoffs carried in a 4-team playoff?
I think the murmur that started right after South Carolina beat them suddenly died down as soon as they made it into the ACC championship. I think it was starting to build.
I think it was too. I think certainly when you lost to Louisville, not just that you lost to Louisville, how you lost to Louisville. It was an ugly loss at the crib. And then you lost to South Carolina to end it, right? South Carolina's won 2 out of the last 3. Now, obviously, if you go out of the last 10, it's heavy advantage Clemson. What are they, 2-8 in the last 10?
But this is also the first time Clemson's been in. They backdoored in, but this is the first time they've been in the ACC championship in a while. So they've had losses every season, like the Louisville loss.
It's a bad loss, and I do think that the question marks coming into this season were being asked fairly, to be honest with you. But at the same time, I also have to point out, and by the way, Clemson was in the ACC title game in, 2015 through 2015 through 20. They were out of it in 21. They were back in it in 22. They were out of it last year because Louisville went. Remember, Florida State went last year, and they are back in it this year. They also won every one of those ACC title games.
All right, so I missed one in there.
Yeah.
My bad.
That's all good. But I think the point is, again, there were a lot of questions coming into this season about Dabo, and I still think there are, so that we're clear. And again, most of those center around NIL in the portal. Will Dabo be more involved this offseason? So far, it looks like the answer is no. But if he gets blown out in the opening round of the playoffs as a road team, Does that heat pick up a little bit? I think it's a fair question to ask. All right. Some of the comments we've got on the stream. Lester chimed in and said a play-in tournament is silly. Then you have to form a committee to figure out who the bubble teams are. I hate the NCAA basketball tournament has 68. Again, you don't need a play-in. You're going to 16. Guys, it's an inevitability. I wasn't like predicting that. I'm telling you it's a fact. This tournament is going to 16 teams. Why? Because it's more games. Because it's more TV. We're all going, every one of us listening to this show is going to watch at least 80% of these games, right? Like, is there any, I've already told the wife, here are the dates. We have a Google calendar that we share so we can pop in like, okay, I got to, here's my Swamp Rabbit schedule and I'm going to MC this event that day and I got a meeting with a client this time so that we can, we're not scheduling stuff when the other person has some obligation. I've already got every playoff game in red on that calendar. I can't do anything those days. If they add another 4 teams to these playoffs, another 2 games to these playoffs, guess what, dudes? I'm watching all of those too. We're going to 16. There's no need for a play-in tournament. Lawn Tractor Life says, best sports talk morning show, Hart. You know who else says that about us? The South Carolina Broadcasters Association. They actually don't even say morning show. They just say best sports talk show.
3 times.
Three times.
We actually we are the award of merit. We're runner up as the best morning show in the entire state.
Yeah, we were.
We're going to win that next year, though.
Steven with the comment so large, Lonzo, that it covers our faces on the stream.
That's not. Well,
that's a novel, Steven.
Yeah. That's.
But you know what? Because I'm a good person, we're going to go through it. He says, me, and I quote, guys, the problem with the committee is twofold. They have rewarded teams like Penn State and Notre Dame for playing absolutely nobody, yet looking good while doing it. But USC gets no benefit because Bama squeaked out a 2-point struggle win. It's crazy that Alabama needed to lose 4 games to be considered out this year. Imagine anyone else with a 9-3 record without a conference title or title game appearance in the playoffs. Stupid. Guys, Steven, specifically, like 70% of the college football talking heads out there were lobbying for South Carolina to get the spot Alabama has. I played a bunch of them yesterday. Todd McShay is doing it. Barrett Saleh is doing it. Dan Patrick is doing it. Like a huge of respected. I'm not talking about hot take artists. I'm talking like a large swath of respected college football talking heads were lobbying for South Carolina to get that spot at 9-3 without a conference. I don't have an issue with 9-3 going in. This is why this is always going to be interesting. It's going to be a debate every year, whether we're at 16 or 24, because it is a subjective selection process. There are going to be some people who say that an unblemished record, the closer you are to undefeated, the more you deserve it. There are going to be people who are going to say the number of losses technically doesn't matter depending on the body of work around those losses and who those losses are to. Losing a 2-point game on the road at a now number 11 ranked Alabama is not a bad loss. It's a good loss. And what did you do? You won a bunch of other ranked games too. It's a subjective process. This is why, and I want to be very clear, if you've listened to the show, you have not heard me say, oh, South Carolina deserves that spot. I haven't said that once because it's irrelevant how I feel about it. This is a subjective thing. What I'm saying is I absolutely believe, and it should not be, but that your brand is a large part of the metric into whether you're in or not. That is why Bama got that. That is not why Bama got that spot. Bama got that spot because they got a win over South Carolina head-to-head, and they were more impressive in every way, shape, and form than Ole Miss was. That's why they got that spot. That's why I think they are in that position. Frank says the only thing that would happen is Clemson and SMU basically switch places. No one knew is getting in. Loser is out. Not necessarily. I do think SMU could still get in with the loss if it's a good loss. And Clemson goes in. They do switch places with SMU, but it changes the seeding, and that's the interesting thing. All right, we got some more. We will get more of these comments later on in the show. We got Lulu Kesin coming up in the next segment. We got Rashad Beard at 8:40, and on the phone line, we got my dude Creed calling in right now to talk a little college football playoff. Creed, welcome back to the show, big fella. Good to have you.
You got so many good points, I don't even know where to start. But I guess one of them, your good point is you are correct. Whether it's 2 years, 4 years, it's going to 16. That's just how it happened. That doesn't, it bothers me, but that's a foregone conclusion. What bothers me is what happens 8 years from now or 7 years from now when it goes to 18 and they do have a play-in. That's what I really am dreading when they go to 18. 16 I don't like, but you're right. It's coming. There's no maybe. But
yeah,
go to 18, that's going to suck.
I don't know that we'll go to 18, Creed. I don't know. I don't know. And here's why. I don't know how much benefit financially. At the end of the day, you got to put this into dollars and cents because the only thing that makes sense is making sense, right? Like that's my slogan for college football.
It is the
only thing that makes sense is making sense. We already don't pay attention to the play-in for the NCAA tournament, right? We don't pay. Most of us don't pay attention to the tournament.
67 and 68. This will be 17.
No, keep in mind. Those play-in spots are for 5 seats, right? Like those at-large, they're for 5 seats. This isn't nobody's, right? These are bubble teams. And I do think there is, and I don't know where it is, Creed. It may be at 16, it may be at 18, it may be at 24. There is a line somewhere where the majority of common college football fans will not care if teams below this line get in because they're just not threats. I think that line this year is around number 16. Anybody below 16, not a real threat to win the college football national championship, so they're not going to tune into that. I don't know where that line is, but I don't think it's too far behind 16.
Yeah, and you're probably right that it won't carry as much, but it does. And the other one is, and I don't care what anybody says, SMU loses, they're out because Alabama has to get in. And if Alabama and South Carolina had switched, South Carolina had done exactly what Alabama did. They beat Alabama. If Alabama had won the last 6 in a row, there is no doubt Alabama would still be in. That's a joke thing that they would, they said head to head, we're going to put South Carolina in. It is all brand. It's not mostly brand. It is all brand. And they'd have put them in.
I don't disagree with that at all, Creed. And I appreciate the phone call, big dog. Good to have you on the show. We got to run to the hard break. We got Lulu Kesin coming up to talk Gamecock football in the next segment. I don't disagree with that. For the record, I said that last year when they got in past Florida State. And all of you guys ran to the committee's defense. All of those guys, all of you ran to a few exceptions. You know who you are. But all of you ran to the committee. Oh, no, Rob. It's because Jordan Travis is down and Florida State's in the ACC. And you came up with all these reasons. And I tried to tell you then, but you didn't want to listen to me. I said, you know what you're doing? You're making it easier for the committee to shaft people down the line. That's what you're doing. They are setting the precedent for making a reason, an excuse to put a team that did not do what Florida State did ahead of Florida State. I said it then. I'm saying it now. I said you are making it easier for the committee to screw somebody else. And here we are 1 year later, and it's a bunch of y'all. Now, again, I don't think, for the record, South Carolina doesn't even have the argument that Florida State has. Florida State didn't lose to anybody head-to-head. Florida State was 13-0. Florida State was not just a conference championship game participant, but a conference championship game victor last year. So Florida State last year had a stronger argument than South Carolina does this year. But a lot of y'all right now are saying Bama's in not because of the head-to-head victory, but because of the brand, because they cannot do it. That's what Creed just said, cannot have a playoff without the script A in the mix. That's why they are where they are. Well, if you believe that, then you should have been riding with me last year, and you weren't. And I was screaming about it then. I said, you should be raising hell right now so that when this happens to somebody in the future, you can raise hell then and it echoes. But you didn't. I was out there on an island by myself. And now I'm the one looking at all of you going, welcome. Welcome to the point I tried to make a year ago and you all told me I was an idiot. You all told me I was an idiot. And now it's you getting the shaft and now you got a problem with it.
It's not the same thing because South Carolina plays in the SEC. Florida State plays in the ACC, and the ACC has no respect.
Then don't have anything but an SEC championship and let everybody else do their own thing, but we're not going to do that.
No, I got to throw the Big Ten in there.
And annually we do this. No, you don't. Why? Why do I have to throw the Big Ohio State? Indiana? You making the if I put up Indiana right now, they lose to 8 out of the 14 teams.
I think last I checked, in the top 12, I think there are 6 SEC teams.
Wait, but that doesn't matter.
5 Big Ten teams.
Florida State. Wait. Florida State was in the top 4 last year. You just said that doesn't matter.
Yeah, but
So it doesn't. So the rankings don't matter.
Well,
All that matters is the eye test.
No, you missed the point. The ACC entries in there, they're just like they're placeholders. I mean, they're in there. They got a name in there, but they're not really. They're not.
I
really.
get what you're saying, and I understand.
You have poo-pooed the
And I
ACC
understand.
just as much as anyone else.
For sure, the ACC is crap this year. I'm not arguing that, but it doesn't mean that teams that play in it can't individually get. If anybody should be standing up for that, Lonzo, it's a Big Ten guy. If anybody should be standing up for it, it's a Big Ten guy. So, all right, we'll talk more about this.
Well, the whole thing's rigged, and Alabama's going to win it all, from what you've been saying. So, I mean, they're getting in just so they can win the whole thing for the first time.
No. See, once again, you think this is about results. All it's about is driving TV rankings. And if somebody knocks off Alabama, they become the team that you have to watch the rest of the playoffs. The goal is just get them there. That's been my argument. Now, again, Bama beat South Carolina head-to-head. That's why South Carolina doesn't have the argument Florida State did. But the argument is out there, and I'm not making it. But Barris Ali is, and Todd McShay is, and Dan Patrick is. All these people are. All right, we got a bunch more text and stream comments you guys have left football. In the next segment, we got Rashad Beard at 8:40. We got Fight Club at 9:20. All that more coming up on the Rob Brown Show. That is after Lonzo Shefty's your ears with this Sports Flash.
Can't wait till you forget about that. The Duke Blue Devils knocked off the Auburn Tigers in a top 10 showdown at Cameron Indoor last night. Cooper Flagg led the Blue Devils with 22 points and 11 boards, and Isaiah Evans recorded 18 points off the bench. The number one men's basketball team in America was upset last night as the Creighton Blue Jays knocked off the Kansas Jayhawks 76-63. Kansas shot just 35% from the floor and 8 of 23 from deep, while Creighton shot 47% and 41% respectively. Creighton also out-rebounded the Jayhawks 44-31. Number 10, Alabama knocked off number 20, North Carolina last night, 94-79. Alabama kept North Carolina to less than 18% from three and shot nearly 50% from the floor. 4 or 5 Crimson Tide scorers scored in double digits. Tune in this Saturday at 11:30 as the Furman Paladins take on the Princeton Tigers. It's Furman versus Princeton right here on your home for Furman Paladins basketball, the Fan Upstate.
The Nashville.
This is my second reminder. Oh, yeah, I got a call to make. Actually,
Yeah, we're going to step away for just a minute and get Lulu on the line, guys. Stay right there for me. We'll be right back.
All those things are true, Roadmaster. The problem is, it still doesn't matter.
That is true. And a garbage call at the end. But at the end of the day, the committee's not going to take that into consideration, even though they have already said injuries are a factor. That's what happened to Florida State. Exactly. Specifically in their argument, it was the injury that kept them out. So I've already made the argument that if the injury is the reason that Florida State got bumped, the injury is the reason South Carolina should not have the LSU loss held against them. But we all know inconsistency is the name of the game.
We have the same people in the committee this year that we did last year.
They rotate on and off, so I don't remember. I can go find out or try to find out.
So can you blame last year's committee for this year's committee?
I can blame. Yeah, I mean, I can. I
Okay.
can blame I can blame the precedent that they claimed that they were setting, but then are not upholding.
Well, doesn't
any
each committee decide what the precedent is year?
Yes, but if it's going to be inconsistent year to year, then you need to make it known year to year what your metrics are for that given year. We're going to hear from Shane about that coming up in a minute. Want to remind you guys that happening right now with the Bon Score Wellness Arena is the annual LEO Santa Toy Drive. It is taking place again at the Bon Score Wellness Arena. Friend of the show, Rob Benario, is down there, as are, and will be throughout the day, various members of the law enforcement and first responders community. And they'll be doing cool stuff. They'll be doing demonstrations and displays at the well all day long. So if you want to go check that out, we highly encourage it. It is taking place at the Bon Score Wellness Arena. They will be out there overnight, through the night, all the way until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. It is a consortium of first responders consisting of law enforcement officers, firemen, and emergency response members. They are volunteering their off-duty time to both collect new and unopened toys and cash donations that they will then volunteer their off-duty time to distribute to underprivileged children around our community. The toy collection efforts underway again at the Bon Score Wellness Arena. Started at 6 a.m. They will be out there until 10 a.m. tomorrow. So at some point today, do us a favor. Go pick up a new and unwrapped toy or stuff some money in an envelope a la a bag man and bring it down to the Bon Score Wellness Arena so that we can help underprivileged kids have a wonderful Christmas here in the upstate.
You know, as Rob Benario pointed out yesterday when he was on the show, take a new football or a new basketball or a new soccer ball, something sports related down there, because, you know, kids love sports for Christmas too. They do.
Help out our law enforcement and first responders community. Help out underprivileged kids around the upstate. All right. Let's take it on over to Columbia, South Carolina, and welcome in we got new horns on the show. Welcome in a young lady who covers the South Carolina Gamecock Athletic Department for the Greenville News. She joins us every Thursday at 8 a.m. on the dot to talk Gamecock athletics. She is the lovely Lulu Kesin joining us on the show. Good morning, young lady. How do you do?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for being so pleasant and chipper this morning, Lulu.
Well, it's my mom's birthday, and even though I'm not with her, I got to send positive energy while I can, and I know she's listening. So
happy birthday, Lulu's mom!
Happy birthday.
There you go.
We love you. Thank you for raising an awesome kid who's so willing to come on and talk sports with us. She's the best. Good job, Mom.
Oh,
that's good work.
That's very sweet. That's very sweet. Love all around.
Lulu Kesin joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Lulu Kesin, I got a chance to watch a little bit of Shane's press conference yesterday, and he struck me as a dude who's like right in that perfect mix of angry and disappointed. Speaking of like a parent, he was talking to the committee like a mad parent at a kid, right? Like he was on one hand kind of like promoting South Carolina. He was also like, well, I mean, if they're going to do it that way, then I'm just not going to do it. It was a very interesting press conference. Are there any that you've been able to pick up behind the scenes vibes, whether it's from the players, whether it's from the team, the coaches, the administrators, the boosters, whatever, what's kind of the atmosphere over there in Columbia after South Carolina did not just get left out of a potential, not guaranteed, but potential playoff spot, but also got bumped behind Alabama and Ole Miss?
Yeah, well, Kyle Kennard posted on his Instagram story just like thumbs down emojis. But besides that, we haven't talked to the players since the announcement happened. I don't know necessarily when we will, just because there's a kind of a lack of media this week, just given the fact that technically like the season's on a pause, I guess. And I think your assessment of Shane's emotions are valid. I think he was very disappointed in a lot of the, I guess, reasons for why things happened, but also at the same time trying to elevate his team and talk about, the win over Clemson, what a bowl game could mean. Like, that's sort of what I was trying to get at with my question is, how is he balancing, the frustration of my team just kind of got left out of the top of the top, the 12-team playoff, but also my team could potentially win 10 games this year, which is something a South Carolina football team has only done, I think, like 3 other times. So I wasn't necessarily telling him, oh, be happy with what could happen. I was just more so getting at, there's been a wave of kind of this push and pull the last like 72 hours where you're pulled in one direction, being so happy about the Clemson win. And then it's just like, okay, then the college football playoffs, you feel as though they left you out unfairly. Like, there's just so much going on emotionally. And I think, one, he's probably exhausted, but 2, also trying to be kind of that guiding voice for his players and being like, okay, let's all handle this maturely and responsibly. But obviously he wasn't going to hold back in terms of telling us how he felt about the committee specific decisions, that being, Alabama making it in basically over South Carolina.
Lulu Kesin from the Greenville News joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. It is interesting, obviously, Lulu, that you mentioned it. They were a grand total between the LSU and the Bama loss, a grand total of 5 points away from being a 10-2 team, really 5 points away from being an 11-1 football squad. But that head-to-head matchup with Ole Miss, where they got ramrodded, that head-to-head matchup with Alabama, where they just by if that pass is 2 yards lower, they got a shot to win that football game. I've come at it this way. If I'm Shane Beamer, and I think based on the recruiting class that they signed yesterday, and we'll ask you about that here in just a minute, the interesting thing for Shane Beamer over the next year is going to be the fine line of disappointment of being 5 points away from being 11-1, 3 points away from being 10-2. The disappointment of being in that spot and being left out, especially if you, like me, believe at least a part of that comes because the committee has always tried to make sure they find a way to get Alabama in, but also generating excitement, generating electricity, pointing out to people that, look, we were a bad snap or 2 away from being a playoff team, and you've got all of this other stuff that we're building. Is that kind of the message that Shane Beamer is going to be hinging on during further recruiting, in your opinion?
I believe so. And I also think that just a Clemson win, obviously the Clemson game is always going to be the last of the season, but I think that happening, obviously, and going in South Carolina's favor this year is huge. I mean, it's hard because the more, I guess, Shane vocalizes how incredible his team was the last 6 games at least, I'm sure the more frustrated he gets that he's like listing all their accomplishments and then being reminded. But I do think it's just still fresh, like, not to talk about this like a breakup or something, but I think he just needs a little time to step away. And I think the biggest step in terms of going forward in elevating the future of this program with recruiting and things like that, the transfer portal, is, winning a bowl game in a dominant fashion. Shane, one of his main arguments is like, how do you make a bowl game without beating a ranked opponent, kind of arguing with some of these non-SEC teams. It's like, okay, if they're against a Big 12 team, like, you got to put your money where your mouth is and you got to win. So I think it's just a weird time right now where the news is still fresh and hurtful, but at the same time, Shane's always been one to kind of put everything away and just play. He's very competitive, and I think that in the next few days or so, or at least when the bowl games come out, like it's gonna kind of be put on the back burner because he's gonna want to focus on just winning a bowl game. And I think that's the best way to attract recruiters right now is how they respond when maybe things don't go their way.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the game that took place last weekend. Lulu Kesin, obviously, the boys go on the road to Clemson, South Carolina, and get a big-time dub over the then number 12 ranked Clemson Tigers. We start as we always do, 30,000-foot view. What do you think South Carolina, aside from just having ice water in the veins in the fourth quarter, and aside from Lenora Sellers just running like a dump truck whenever things got heated behind the offensive line, what were the things that jumped out at you, or was that pretty much the game in your opinion?
It wasn't that was pretty much the game, but I would maybe argue that South Carolina kind of didn't play all that well up until that moment, I guess. I mean, not that they didn't play well. It's just I thought Clemson, I guess, played better. I think Clemson looked more confident on offense. I think South Carolina took a little while to get going, especially on offense. I think there were some bad missed tackles. I think Judge Collier was having a little bit of a tricky time with the one-on-one matchups, and not that he was any, one person that caused anything, but I think just there was some individual kind of uncharacteristic slow moments. And I just think Clemson kind of got the better half of South Carolina for, I would say, at least 3 quarters. So that was kind of at first my big takeaway if the game didn't go in South Carolina's direction. However, Clemson doesn't have Lenora Sellers, and Lenora Sellers simply was the difference maker in that game, 1,000%.
Talk to me about Lenora Sellers, because I think at this point we can all say not only is the hype train on the tracks, Lulu Kesin, but it is chugging along at full speed into next year. A couple of weeks ago, Shane made a comment that a player told him that he was departing the program via the transfer portal because he did not believe the Gamecocks were going to have a quarterback this year, let's say, thinly veiled shot at one Antoine Juice Wells down at Ole Miss this year. Shane said, look, we're set at quarterback. He's an absolute dog, and Norris was absolutely a dog against Clemson. What is the hype around this kid as he gets set for season number 2 as QB1 next year, pending, obviously, the results of this year's postseason?
Yeah, I mean, selfishly, I'm loving it because it makes the feature I wrote on him in August look really good. Because at first, I was kind of freaking out after the Old Dominion game because I was like, wow, I just wrote a 1,000-word piece about how his family and his hometown and how, nothing phases him and he's just always been good from a young age, but he's kind of like gifted athletically. And after the Old Dominion game, I was like, wow, I might have just jinxed him and maybe the college level is just a bit too much, but I was very wrong. I think the hype around Lenora Sellers here is that he's South Carolina's quarterback. Like, especially yesterday, since Clemson and maybe even before, like, obviously a lot of people are worried in this kind of day and age with the transfer portal. But Lenore's younger brother just committed to South Carolina. Like, I don't see him going anywhere. His parents are the nicest people in the world. They love South Carolina. Like, I think Lenore's, if anything is clear, he's so appreciated. He appreciates the moment so much. He's so grateful for right now, and he just wants to play football. Like, he doesn't strike anyone, or at least me right now, as the type of kid that's going to be the first one to walk in and hype himself up. Like, he's just there to play football with his friends, and he's doing some magical kind of Houdini things on the field, obviously. But I think all the hype around him is just excitement that he's so young and still has so much left to give for a lot of South Carolina fans. That's really exciting.
One of the things I find interesting, I've said for a for the last couple of years, Lulu Kesin, that I think you can boil recruiting down to three things, which is cash, coach, and culture, the 3 C's of recruiting, right? You got to, at this point with NIL, you got to be able to put some cash on the table to make these kids a little bit more enticed. You've got to have a coach that these guys want to play for, and that coach has got to establish a culture that makes kids want to stay there, because you're not just recruiting kids once anymore. You're re-recruiting your entire roster every single offseason to get them not to go into the portal and stay. But if there is another factor that can be added to cash, coaching culture, it's quality of opponents. Guys gravitate towards the opportunity to play with other dogs. It even happens all the way at the NFL level, where you see regularly players taking breaks and hometown discounts to stay with a particular quarterback or running back or play behind a certain offensive line, or whatever the case is going to be. Lenore Sellers is one of the biggest recruiting factors that South Carolina has, along with the Garnet Trust being one of the top NIL collectives in America. And along with Shane Beamer, the one thing we've given him credit for without break since he got there is being an excellent culture builder on campus. It seems like all of those qualities are steaming along. Do you felt like we saw results? Do you feel like we saw that show up in the early signing class? And will we continue to do so as we move towards National Signing Day in February?
I believe so. It's also tricky because I think Shane, particularly not with the, high school recruits, but with the transfer portal, had such good success, especially with players like Kyle Kennard, Demetrius Knight. Like, those were names I imagine people a year ago were sort of freaking out over. Like, Shane knew how to recruit really good players and really good people out of the portal. I mean, especially with Demetrius Knight. So I kind of am now curious, like, with these conversations that sometimes with high school recruits can be, 2 years, like a transfer portal, you can talk to a guy for maybe a day and then have to make a decision. Like, high school recruiting, it's a longer process. So you're kind of able to attack it from many different ways. I got the vibe based on who, Shane was elevating yesterday, who he was talking about, that this, at least the 25 new people that signed, 3 flipped commits. Like, there's some really good quality players, but also good quality people coming in. And I think Shane, and what I'm hoping to sort of dig into and write about, like, I think Shane wears his emotions on his sleeve, and players have a really clear picture of what they're getting out of their coach. And I think that's critical. I think a lot of people in every level just kind of just don't understand that as a coach, you have to give a little to get. And I think Shane gives a lot, and that's why a lot of people understand the program they're getting into, and why maybe people aren't getting here and saying, oh, I had no idea South Carolina was going to be like this, boop, going in the portal. I think Shane's very clear from day one about his expectations and his energy and his vibe. And from my understanding, a lot of the high school recruits that just signed are really excited knowing what they're going to get at South Carolina.
Lulu Kesin covers the Gamecock athletic department for the Greenville News. She is kind enough to join us every single Thursday morning at 8 a.m. I suspect, barring a Powerball lottery chance of chaos, South Carolina will not be a playoff team when we speak next Thursday to Lulu Kesin. However, we'll likely have a better idea of the bowl that they will be playing in, likely a very prestigious one. And Lamont Paris, Don Staley, the guys and gals playing hardwood basketball for the Gamecocks are getting their regular seasons going as well. We'll be starting to fade into that. Lulu Kesin, you are a wonderful person. Thank you for your time as always.
Of course, it's a good way. I have an early radio call today and then a 9 p.m. basketball tip for women's basketball tonight. So it's going to be a fun, busy day, but I'm glad I get to start it off this way.
Lulu, call your mom. Tell her we said happy birthday.
I will. I promise.
Done and done. You're the best. Lulu Kesin from the Greenville News, again, every Thursday at 8 a.m. She talks Gamecock athletics with us. We are very appreciative of her time. When we come back, there's a bad guy. There's a bad guy in sports. There's a bad guy who has gone ahead and said, you want a bad guy? I'll be the bad guy. And we're going to talk about that bad guy.
Can we say hello to them?
See, I got to go find that clip too. I got to go find all the clips. All right.
Can we send someone to a rock concert, Rob?
I bet we can, Lonzo. How would you like to go see Trans-Siberian Orchestra next Friday, 4 p.m.? We have tickets for you. And if you want to go see Trans-Siberian Orchestra next Friday at 4 p.m., you need to be right now, this second, to 844-326-3663. Caller number 2. Caller number 2, the number of legendary New Orleans Saints quarterback Aaron Brooks. Number 2, you need to be calling number 2 right now to 844-326-3663. 844-326-3663. Caller number 2 winning a pair of tickets to go see Trans-Siberian Orchestra next Friday afternoon at 4 p.m. It is also your chance to listen to more of the Rob Brown Show right after this break on the Fan Upstate.
QC.
Ladies and gentlemen, the nation's leader in non-surgical regenerative therapy for joint pain is QC Kinetics. And if you were dealing with joint pain, it stinks. You know that. We all know that. It's the worst. It's the absolute worst. So call QC Kinetics at 864-448-3772 and get rid of that joint pain, or go to their website at qckinetics.com, qckinetix.com. When you get there, you'll learn all about this revolutionary therapy that does not require anesthesia, steroids, drugs. You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a villain. That's what Harvey Dent once said in the Christopher Nolan Batman universe. Aziz Al-Shaair has become the most recent player to decide, yeah, I'll just become the villain. He was suspended, of course, 3 games for his hit on Trevor Lawrence that has effectively ended the season for Trevor Lawrence. The Jags are 2-10, and I've done the research, not good. They're not good. They're not bad. They're bad. They're bad at the football. But TL16 was, trying to, along with the Jags, figure it out to get a little bit better. And now he is done. He is also going to likely have surgery on a shoulder injury that he has sustained a few weeks ago when the Jags took on the Eagles. Needed the surgery on his non-throwing shoulder, but said, I'm going to play through it until I can't play through it no more. After Wednesday night's social media post by Aziz Al-Shaair, it is pretty obvious that what I said yesterday, that is, that's genuinely one of the most insincere apologies I think I've ever seen before in my life. I said I thought Aziz Al-Shaair was taking the low road out. He went with the, I'm sorry for what happened to you. Not the, I'm sorry I did what I did. Now, you did have some defenders. You had Mark Schlereth, big stink yesterday, saying, what is he supposed to do? Pretty much everything opposite of what he did. But Aziz Al-Shaair included in his social media post a picture of him alongside Joaquin Phoenix's DC version of the Joker, and a photo of a caption that read, quote, there is beauty in being rejected, misunderstood, unseen, and unprotected by people.
Way to pick the worst movie of the year to put yourself up against, and one of the worst Jokers.
Yeah, but also the first Joker movie was pretty good.
The last 10 minutes were good.
I liked it a lot, but then they decided to absolutely ruin it. Anyway, he also put on a tweet, quote, if you want me to be your villain, I'll be your villain. See you soon. He completed his message with a middle finger emoji and a Joker playing card. The feed has not been taken with much sympathy. Of course, he also said a couple of days ago that fans against him are, quote, racist and Islamophobic, end quote, and accused reporters of calling him every name in the book. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to start the next phrase of my take here by saying I am not Islamophobic, and I decry Islamophobia, as I do cry every form of phobia out there. Live and let people live. Other people who do horrendous things in the name of the thing that they like does not mean that they are that person or condone those activities. But my man, Aziz, my guy, my dude, my brother. No, bud. No, just no.
All
just
right.
no.
So I don't understand what the big deal is about this. I'm talking about how he's reacting. He has been labeled a bad guy, which I believe he is a bad guy. So he's just embracing the bad guy image. I mean, he's taken something that's been given to him, deservedly so, and he's using it. I mean, he can be apologetic forever. You know what no one believes? His apology. So why not go the other way and just be the bad guy everyone thinks you are?
There is a difference, because you know me, I tell people all the time, embrace the heel role.
I mean, Dennis Rodman didn't care. And if you're going to be that guy, then be that guy. And that sounds like that's what he's going to be.
There is, in my opinion, a vast difference between embracing the villain role under the cliche, you hate me because you ain't me, like a Ric Flair. Ric Flair was a bad guy. Why? Because he leaned into, I wear expensive suits. I ride in limousines and private jets. I wear Rolexes, and I'll kiss your wife and she'll like it, right? That's, you hate me because I'm the champ and you're not. Versus, you hate me because I just punched your dog in the face. That's a different kind of bad guy. There's bad guy Joker that burns a big stack of billions of dollars to make a point versus Joker who just murders civilians indiscriminately.
All right. Who's the bad guy in the NFL right now?
Aziz Al-Shaair.
Other than him, who's a bad guy in the NFL?
I don't know. You tell me. Who are you? Do you have somebody in mind?
No, I don't. That's the point.
But do you understand? Okay.
What he did was horrible.
Right.
And he's going to be labeled as something no matter what. So he might as well embrace it. That's what he's doing. And he's probably going to steal some of the thunder for some people because he's going to walk in the stadium. He's going to be booed. What's a heel love? A heel loves the booze.
Yeah, but again, there's first off, there is a difference between I am a bad guy because I come into your crib and I talk a bunch of smack. I tell you how much your city sucks. I tell you how much your sports team sucks. I tell you how none of your women have all their front teeth. I tell you how all the guys in the audience are fat and out of shape losers. There's a difference between that kind of heat and the kind of heat that you get because you physically actually hurt people and it appears to be intentionally. I will support Jim Harbaugh taking the bad guy role because everybody hates him because he's a big dork and he cheats at Michigan allegedly. Even though
listen, you're a bad guy if you wear khakis.
Whatever it is. Actually not because I wear khakis. But
my point. Thank you.
There's a difference between I'm the bad guy because I'm doing what other people have done and you just elected me as the face of that thing versus I'm the bad guy because I'm out here ending guys' careers by playing recklessly out of control and not caring about other people. I will embrace a person who embraces being the bad guy and being the bad guy because they're just doing the thing. Versus I'm the bad guy because I'm assaulting people, right? Like there's a difference.
He's probably not going to get a bigger suspension because it's already been handed down because he's decided to do this. Now he is embracing the reputation that he has, which he had to a degree before this hit and definitely does now.
Earned.
Okay, earned. Again, this isn't me condoning or anything. I understand. I'm the bad guy. You guys have labeled me the bad guy. You don't accept my apology. So when I walk into your stadium, get ready because someone might get hurt. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but he's embracing
it's definitely not a good thing. Let's be clear.
But he's so what does the NFL do? Do they tell him to tone down his social media posts? Don't act like you're the Joker. Don't act like you're the bad guy.
Listen,
you should be remorseful because it looks bad for the Shield.
I'm on the phone with him today going, look, dude, next time you hurt somebody, even if it's unintentional, you have got an image and now you've created the image of the bad guy. If you create the image of the bad guy, which you're doing with this, then you get treated more harshly than other people who don't do that. That's fine if you want to do it. Just be aware there is zero leniency for you. And when you start, listen, buttholes come in all colors. Buttholes range the spectrum of people, and you're just being a butthole at this point. That's just all there is to it. So you're going to get treated that way. And if you embrace it, it's even more so. We'll talk more about this coming up later in the show. We got to run to a break because coming up in the next segment, the young man who knows more about the Carolina Panthers than everybody that's not me. Actually, maybe even more than me. We'll see. The host of the Panther Nation podcast.
He does know more than me.
I know he does. I'm trying to make myself feel better.
Doubt.
The legendary Rashad Beard is up next to talk Panther football on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, stepping away for just a minute to get Rashad set up. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, Blues, welcome to the stream, John Cena.
Dun, 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 dun.
What up, Rashad Beard?
Can't see me now. You can.
I would do that thing he does it. They do at the beginning of the rap, but I can't do that. You can because you can roll your R's. I cannot do that.
Rapido!
There we go. I can't do that. I hate you.
On Thursday mornings at 8:40 a.m., we take a trip right up the road to Charlotte, North Carolina, to welcome in a young man who talks Carolina Panther football I'm going to say every single day. It's not every single, but it's pretty close to it's close enough.
How do you know? You don't know?
Because I follow the Panther Nation podcast on YouTube. That's how I know. And you should too, people, because if you do, you're going to get the remarkable insight and analysis of the next guest here on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. My dog, Rashad Beard, is in the house. What up, fella?
What's going on, guys? Happy to be here once again. It's good times.
Yeah, man. I got to tell you, it's got to be nice for you, Rashad, that the way you lost that game, at least to me on the outside looking in, correct me if I'm wrong here, the way you lost that game this past Sunday to Tampa Bay had you saying, damn, that sucks. We should have won. We could have won. We blew it, as opposed to same old Panthers, which has been the war cry for a couple of years now. It felt to me, Rashad, like disappointment in the L was justified, not expected this time around. I know that one stung. I know that nobody more than Chuba Hubbard on that sideline for 30 minutes after the game sitting by himself. My heart broke for that young man. But the end of that game felt like a shift to me, Rashad, because it wasn't another same old Panthers. It was we should have had that in the bag. The expectations are now tangibly risen, in my opinion.
Yeah, did we blow it though? I feel like there, a little robbery there with the touchdown, no touchdown call by the refs. You know what I mean? So we got to talk about that. I think there's so many aspects of this game to break down. Yes, defensively we gave up a lot of yards on the ground. We left a couple points on the table with missed kicks. So you could argue, definitely make the argument that we blew it. But yeah, we were in the game. And it's unfortunate, but the energy, the vibes are definitely different. And it definitely is something that it feels good. It definitely feels good that the Panthers are heading in the right direction. Good things are happening, and I agree with your point.
So to the Adam Thielen catch, we'll hit on that real quick. Don't want to spend a ton of time on it because it's kind of one of these spots that it is what it is, right? The problem you have, it's not a Carolina Panther problem in this moment. It's an NFL problem. To me, those kind of catches that are questionable in the end of the end zone, they should be called touchdowns, and it should be made to overrule them as opposed to being called incomplete pass and then overruled to be a touchdown. That's my first problem. My second problem is, and Bill Belichick agrees with me on this one, man, we ought to have 98 cameras pointed at every angle of the end zone. It should never be a question whether a ball is a catch or an incomplete because we should have 100 cameras pointed down there. And the fact that the NFL doesn't is a complete failure of the league, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It definitely should have been ruled a touchdown. That was in my end zone where I sit, so I got a very good view of it. Definitely had control of the football. Should have been called the touchdown. There's a ref looking directly at the play. Definitely should have called it a touchdown, and then obviously had the evidence to overturn. He called it the opposite way. We couldn't find the evidence to call it a touchdown. So, and there's not enough camera angles, which is completely crazy to me. You've got all these cameras with you got the one on the big strings in the air. You got all these different cameras. You got the pylon cams, and you got to tell me that you didn't have a camera to see whether he bobbled the football or not. It's just crazy to me. But it is what it is. Not much you can do about it now. But definitely was a catch by Adam Thielen. It's not the first time we've been kind of robbed on this kind of catch. Cauchery caught it as well.
What a shame though. I mean, because it was an amazing catch. It was, and it'll be on highlight reels for the NFL for this year. It was, I agree. I mean, how do you not have a camera? And the one angle, you see the ref bent down looking right at it. And how could he not?
Right at it.
It comes down to, Rashad, and then we'll go back to Carolina Panther football, I promise. It comes down to the NFL cares more about making sure that they have as many great television angles as they do angles that actually could impact the football game. That's a secondary concern for them. An end zone cam, like maybe once a weekend, is going to come in useful for a television angle of that catch. And at the end of the day, that's all this is about.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. It's unfortunate. And again, I you look at the matchup, right? It's the Bucks Panthers, not the highest profile. So maybe we're not going to send, you know what I mean, our best batch of camera crew out there. You know what I mean? So I kind of get it, but at the same time, man, you got to treat all these games the same, and it definitely should have been a camera in that end zone to catch the catch.
Yeah, that's a Buffalo game. If that's Josh Allen throwing that pass, it's a caught for sure.
Exactly.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the L to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You had Bryce Young leading what we thought probably at the time was a game-winning touchdown drive inside the final 2 minutes. And, Judd, I think I tweeted it out. I think I tagged you in it at one point. I think a lot of people owe a lot of apologies to Bryce Young because that was the vibe of a franchise quarterback. I'm not saying we're elevating that man to Pro Bowl status yet. I'm not saying I'm throwing him up there with Allen and Mahomes and Jackson and all that yet, but I am saying that was as well orchestrated of a shoulda, coulda, woulda been a game-winning touchdown drive as we've seen a quarterback make anywhere in the league this season. I think my man Bryce Young flipped a lot of people's opinion on him in that game this weekend.
Absolutely. And I mean, after I complete my thought, I would like to hear Zoe's, opinion on Bryce Young, because you're kind of the biggest Bryce Young hater of them all, in comparison to C.J. Stroud and all that stuff. So I'd like to hear your opinion. But Bryce Young, as of right now, the past 4 games, I mean, he's basically right there in the top 10. If you eliminate what happened prior in the first 2 games prior to the benching, he's playing very, very good football. And all of us questioned the benching, right? We all questioned it. And obviously, Canales knew what he was doing. Everything he's done since then, since getting that starting position back, it's been great. It's been great. Canales has put the football in Bryce Young's hand in against very good defenses, right? So we're talking about the Chiefs defense. We're talking about the Bucks defense. These are really good defenses. So in the past, it was, man, he did it against these terrible defenses, and he's not. There's always an asterisk by his performance. But now he's starting to do it against really good defenses, and he's looking really good, using his legs. He's throwing the football, and honestly, look, he doesn't have his full complement of wide receivers. You got guys still out. Guys are banged up. You got guys dropping the football, right? He's doing his part. He's doing all he can. He can't go out there and catch the football himself. So, again, Bryce Young is doing an excellent job. I'd like to see us finish in the red zone. I think that's not a problem, more of a Bryce Young problem. I think that's a play calling issue with Canales. But Bryce is doing his job. I think he's doing an excellent job. Now, that being said, I think he does need to finish the season, right? We don't want to crown him as the guy right now, right? These last 4 games have been great. Let's finish the season out. But if he continues on this track, absolutely will be the franchise guy for the Carolina Panthers moving forward.
All right. I am willing to respond because I've been called out. No problem. First of all, I will say this. I still would have took C.J. Stroud. Never going to change my opinion on that. Second of all, there's been defense of Bryce, even when he's been really bad by the person across from me, to the point where I just do not understand. Okay. Oh, no. Let me finish.
I haven't said a word.
Let me finish.
I'm just marking this moment in time for what I do.
Okay. So I do believe the benching was a good thing, because he came. I just think. Listen, I've had those moments, and I still have those. I am 56 years old, and I had a moment like a couple weeks ago where I just did not understand something, and finally something clicked, and I got it, and I'm like, man, I'm an idiot. Why didn't I see that? And I think Bryce Young, when he was sitting there, something clicked. And I think he finally got something. Is he where he needs to be yet? No, but he has definitely showed marked improvement. He is nowhere near the level or the heights that Rob Brown has put him on, but he definitely has looked really good the last couple of weeks. The pedestal that he's put him on, you can't see him up there. He's just so high. Maybe you can see his hand. He's just so high, and because of that, anything you say against that makes it look like, oh, you're saying he's the worst player in the world. I'm not saying that. I am so glad that he's doing better because I want the Panthers to win. I do. They still haven't done that the last couple of weeks, he has shown improvement.
Can I, Rashad? I want you to correct me when I tell a lie. Have I been saying that Bryce Young is good, or have I been saying that if you let the man have some talent in front of him and around him, that he can do it? Have I been saying that when you put him in the kitchen, the man can cook? They've just had him out on the back porch with the dogs the last year and a half.
Rashad just pointed out how he doesn't have his full complement, and now you're trying to act like he got better players in front of him, and he's using that receiver that you said was washed up and too old, who made one of the best catches in the NFL this year. So everything is against what you've been saying.
Rashad, is this team better this year than it was last year, talent-wise?
It certainly is better.
Thank you. Correct.
He's ignoring my points.
Rashad, no, I'm not. I'm saying your points are dead wrong. Rashad, in the last year and a half, if I tried to argue that Bryce Young deserves a Pro Bowl nod or deserves to be put in the Hall of Fame or the Wall of Honor or any of that, or if I just simply said the Panther franchise has held back a young man that's got the talent, now you're starting to see it because they got guys in there to help him get there.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Thank you.
So you put him in a position, and look at him. You put him in a position where that's fine. That's fine. You're wrong. I'm right. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a normal thing.
One of us has been saying that it was the wrong pick against the bus, and the other said this dude's got 300 yards a game. Rashad Beard, in that game against Kansas City, he could have had 300 yards. In that game against the Giants, he could have had 2 more tutties on the board, but there's still been mistakes in both blocking and receiving the football. Am I telling lies, dog?
No lies. A lot of drops. Definitely should be more yardage. Should be more touchdowns thanks to the refs. So, yeah, there's a lot left on the table for Brad.
All right, we spent too much time with our fight.
Did you just cut Rashad off? I feel like
no.
What did you do? You cut Rashad off.
I did not.
All right, he's back. No,
he just froze a little bit. There we go. Now he's back.
Right.
We spent too much time with our little battle, which I won. That you need to spend some more time talking to Rashad while we have very little time left.
Chuba Hubbard has been the better Bryce has gotten. A lot of it's been directly correlated to Chuba Hubbard. I know a lot of people are going to beat him up, Rashad, because of that fumble in overtime, and I don't think anybody's going to beat Chuba Hubbard up worse than Chuba Hubbard beat up Chuba Hubbard after that game. Can we talk about how good this guy has been as the utility player and as the guy, the facilitator for the passing offense that Bryce has been thriving in?
Yeah, no, Chuba definitely, and again, the fumble happened. The game was on the line there, but he's been very safe with the football, right? So this is not a thing where he's just turnover prone and he blew the game and he's been blowing the game for us. Chuba's been very solid. He's top 6 in rushing in the NFL right now, and that's with basically, I'll say it, limited opportunities. I mean, the opportunities have not been as many as the other guys in the top 10 are getting. You know what I mean? So he's been very good. Enter Jonathan Brooks. Some of those opportunities are going to be shared with him as well. But Chuba's been great, man. So I'm not going to be one of those guys to beat up Chuba. It does suck. It's unfortunate that he fumbled the football. I know he's going to beat himself up, but it is what it is, man. Salute to Chuba. I'm not going to kill him for that.
All right, one more with Rashad Beard, and then we got to let him go because he's got work to do, people. He's got stuff to make happen here. The last couple of games, Kansas City, Tampa Bay, a couple of back-to-back losses. You've talked about the fact, gave up rushing yardage, et cetera. It's one of those things that you look at, you go, golly, like if we were just a little bit better on the defense, but it's also one of those things, Rashad, it feels like a cop-out to say this, but I don't think it's an excuse. I think it's a reason. Carolina Panther defense fully healthy win those last 2 games. I stand on that.
Yeah, I think they'll be better. Again, it's tough to put those situations, put myself in those shoulda, coulda, woulda situations, hypotheticals. But I think the defense has been playing well. I think that we got to get in some complimentary football here. Like it hasn't been good. We haven't scored in the red zone. We have opportunities where we settle for missed field goals, right? We settle for field goals, no good. So when the defense puts you in a situation where they're creating turnovers, right, because they had 2 interceptions in that game, they had 4 sacks. I personally feel like the defense did enough to win that game. I feel like the offense left a lot on the table. Special teams left a lot on the table. And nobody's going to talk about Hecker and his lackluster punts. Nobody's going to talk about Eddie Pinheiro, his missed field goals. we're 1-4 in the red zone. So there's a lot of opportunity on the other sides of the football that we didn't take advantage of. It's easy to beat up the defense, but I think we got to get in a situation where we have to talk about complementary football. And I don't think we're there yet as a team. As we continue to get better, we're still missing Derek Brown, still missing Shaq Thompson, still missing some pieces. So yes, ideally having those guys back, in theory, we would be better. But it is what it is. We got to play the hand we're dealt.
Oh, for sure. It is what it is. I'm not, again, like the difference for me has always been excuses versus reasons. Excuses are when something within your control that you don't take advantage of prevents you from succeeding. Reasons are when something outside of your control prevents you from reaching the destination. Losing Brown and Shaq and all these cats, that's a reason. When you are down those players, you're a worse off defense. That's not a shot at anybody that's actively playing. That's just an objective reality of life. That's why those guys are starters. You get them back, we're probably looking at least one different result, maybe two. Rashad Beard is the host of the Panther Nation podcast, kind enough to join us every Thursday at 8:40 to talk Panther football. My man, appreciate you, big dog. Enjoy this week. We'll do it again next week, pal.
Absolutely. Big game in Philly coming up. I'll see you guys next week.
What you think about that one? Any chance?
It's gonna be tough. Tough game. Saquon might put up 200 on us. We'll see.
The good news is you'd be the fourth team. I mean, that dude's a man. He's a man. Rashad, talk to you next week, brother. Appreciate you. Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast, joins us every Thursday at 8:40. Y'all stick around. We got Hayden Asmaria from the BetQL Network talking NFL storylines when we come back after Lonzo hits you with his sports flash.
Right in the nose. The college football transfer portal is open, and a few major names have already entered. One of them is Oklahoma State quarterback Jackson Arnold, who will have 2 seasons of eligibility remaining at his next school. Arnold threw for 1,421 yards and 12 touchdowns with 63% completion percentage and rushed for 444 yards and 3 touchdowns. The Duke Blue Devils knocked off the Auburn Tigers. Those Tigers in a top 10 showdown at Cameron Indoor last night. Cooper Flagg led the Blue Devils with 22 points, 11 boards, and Isaiah Evans recorded 18 points off the bench. Tune in this Saturday at 11:30 as the Furman Paladins take on the Princeton Tigers. It's Furman versus Princeton right here on your home for Furman Paladins basketball. It's us. It's right here. It's the Fan Upstate. Tigers! Tigers!
Go Tigers.
Them Del Tigers.
I got no room to talk.
Yeah, you don't.
It's still funny. All right. What y'all got in the chat? Yeah, y'all make sure you go follow Rashad Beard on the Panther Nation podcast on YouTube. I check him out all the time. I watch him on Sundays for the recaps. Him and Dave do an awesome job, man. Y'all go check them out. Yeah, I wouldn't listen. This is another one of those games where I think I know you want to adopt a winning mentality, and that's always the goal. And you go out there and try to win the game. I mean, it's the NFL. Anybody can beat anybody. You catch them on maybe a letdown day. Maybe they're looking ahead of you a little bit. You go up there and play good football, steal a win away. But I also think that mentality of being realistic about outcomes is still important. You're not in that upper echelon yet, but it's on the way. It's on the way for sure. That's been my argument the entire time. That's been my argument the whole time. CJ Stroud went into a fantastic situation. Bryce Young went into a dumpster fire. There's a difference. Eddie makes one kick and we win. Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. That's part of it for sure. But there's still some.
It's also
there's still some
football. You could
spots.
say that for quite a few games.
Yes, that's NFL football for sure.
Not just NFL. I mean, if the Ohio State kicker makes a kick, it's at least tied. If he makes 2 kicks, they win the game. I mean, it's just football.
That's also true.
But my wife and I were having a discussion, and I don't know if you've noticed this, but it seems like that kickers are missing gimmies so much more this year in college and in the NFL.
I don't disagree, but
It
it's
is so
interesting
weird.
because I can also juxtapose that with we're seeing more 60-yard field goals than we've ever seen, right? It's like kickers are getting to the point where they're putting so much effort into being able to knock down 60-yarders that they're missing 30-yarders.
Did you
right?
send Mario a thing?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the fact that we're running 2 minutes late and he's still not here. Just pointing out. Yeah, and it's some of the kickers that have been the guys who like stay in the same place. There's those other kickers that show up like every couple of weeks in a different place. If those guys miss one, you kind of expect that. But the guys who've been around a while, but it's when did the yips go from being the yips to they're just done? Because some of those guys, when they're done, they're done.
Justin Tucker. I think he's cooked. Deontay said, quote by me. I like that he's quoting himself. I infinitely respect that. Takes 2 years to find out if a modern quarterback is a bust. Takes 3 to see if they're a future. With the exception of generational quarterbacks. Allen, Mahomes, Jackson. With the exception of generational quarterbacks, I completely agree with that. And I would even go so far as to say, to some degree, that still applies to C.J. Stroud. The Texans are not anywhere near what they were last year, and C.J. Stroud isn't putting up the numbers he put up last year. I think that's fair. I actually like that, Deontay. Wait, I'm gonna Michael Scott you. I'm gonna start from now on saying it takes 2 to find out if they're a bust, 3 to find out if they're your future. Deontay White, Rob Brown. I like that. Kicking off the final, the money hour of the Rob Brown Show. Now, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Fan Upstate. Welcome back, Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo with you. Here on a Thursday morning, it is the final hour of the radio program, which means if you want to get in, now's the time to do it. The text line is open 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them on the show. You can give us a buzz on the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone at 844-FANFONE. That is 844-326-3663. And we also want to remind you, the Ray Memorial Hate Line is in play now as well. You go to the Odyssey app, AUDACY. Grab it, put it on all of your digital devices. Go to the Fan Upstate page. Click on the little icon.
Now, there we go. I was just waiting.
Go Tigers.
Just waiting.
Go to the Fan Upstate page. Click on the little heart icon so you follow the page. That way, every time you open up the Odyssey app, it goes right to the Fan Upstate. And on the middle of that Fan Upstate page, you are going to see a little circular button with a microphone on the inside of it. Click on that button, and you can record a 30 to 60-second voice message anytime, day or night, any day of the week, any week of the month, any month of the year. It can be Christmas Eve at 3:30 in the morning. You've knocked down a handful of laced whiskey eggnogs, and you got a smoking hot take that you want to make sure that when the great one and I return the Monday after Christmas, because we're off every day after Monday that week. You're off that whole week. Oh, you're off that next week, aren't you? Are you off New Year's week?
Not the entire week. I'll come back on the 2nd.
Okay.
But I am off those next couple of days.
Fair enough.
So, yeah.
When I return on that Monday, we will have your takes lined up to knock down. You can also send them, and I mean this, Right now, you can send them right this very second. Go to the Odyssey app, go to the Fan Upstate page, click on the little circle button with a microphone in it, and you can send us a 30 to 60-second voice message that comes right to the laptop that we can integrate right into the radio show like Captain did. Oh, I forgot to change my thing back. Gosh, dang it. That would have been absolutely hilarious.
Yes, the timing would have been, you hit the button on time.
I know I did.
Just they couldn't hear it.
Like Captain said.
Hey, Rob, you just lost the game.
And I haven't stopped losing the game since I lost the game.
You have not. You know what? I think I just saw the boss leave, and I bet he's heading down to the well, Rob.
I bet he is, because on top of letting you know about the Ray Memorial Hotline available only on the Odyssey app, send us that 30 to 60-second voice message anytime, day or night, 365 days a year. We also want to tell you that something is happening tonight. Well, right now, all the way through tonight, and that something is our annual LEO Santa Toy Drive taking place right now at the Bon Secours Wellness Arena, and we want you to be a part of it. We want you to be a part of it by going and grabbing a new, unused, unopened toy, or stuff a bunch of cash into an envelope. You want to be like ironically hilarious? Stuff a bunch of cash into a brown paper bag and then drop it off to a bunch of cops at the Bon Secours Wellness Arena, as our local law enforcement and first responders communities are sacrificing their own time off to help underprivileged kids around the upstate have a Christmas. They are collecting toys, new, unused, unopened toys, and money so that kids around the upstate who might not otherwise be able to wake up to find something under the tree will wake up to find something under the tree. They are spending their free time collecting these gifts and this cash, and then they are going to use their free time to distribute those toys and that cash. So grab a toy, grab some cash, stuff it in a brown paper bag, in an envelope, whatever you want, and head on down to the Bon Secours Wellness Arena to donate. And if you can't make it down there, which doesn't make sense because they started at 6 a.m. today and they're going all the way till 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. So you got some free time in there. I know you do. All right. You got some free time. But if you don't, you can go to leosantachristmas.com, leosantachristmas.com for more details and to learn how to donate there. We appreciate it. We appreciate our law enforcement and first responders who are sacrificing their time so that kids of the upstate who may not be fortunate to have a Christmas can have a Christmas. And we appreciate that out of y'all and out of them. All right, let's get a little sound in here. Let's go with you know what? I've wanted to get this in for a hot minute. We're going to do some Shane Beamer audio in the next segment. He was talking a lot about the college football playoff rankings, but I wanted to get to this one for just a minute right now. J.J. Watt has spoken out about the Azeez Al-Shaair suspension of 3 games. Yesterday, we played Jamark Schlereth. Schlereth said, what is he supposed to do? And my answer is everything the opposite of what he did.
Yeah, not that.
Just everything the opposite. Like if he would have done any one thing opposite, he probably isn't getting suspended. He did everything wrong. Well, there is a guy, because as I said yesterday on the show, and some of you think it was a hot take to say that I think Schlereth was leaning into a hot take there. I think Schlereth may have looked at that and said, well, everybody's on board with the suspension, so let me go the other way. I don't know. There is a guy that I respect, and I think this guy's been pretty straight as an analyst. You a J.J. Watt guy now that he's in the studio, Lonzo? Because I got to tell you, I like J.J. as a TV guy.
I've always liked J.J. Watt, and I also like his rapport with the guys at McAfee.
Yeah.
Also. Yeah.
Well, yesterday, J.J. did his Wednesday weekly appearance on the Pat McAfee show, and he got asked about the suspension, and J.J. said the following.
Yeah, J.J., your old squad, obviously Al-Shaair, with the hit on Trevor Lawrence, everyone's talking about he gets a 3-game suspension. GM Caserio comes out and defends him big time, and so does D'Amico Ryans. What do you make of this whole situation going on? Yeah, I mean, I understand the outrage and the everything coming from the hit. I mean, it looked absolutely brutal. It was brutal. I mean, it's a very tough play, and you want Trevor to be okay, and that's hands down first and foremost number one. And I do think that there's justification for punishment there, no doubt. I do also think that the punishment is extremely harsh, especially when you listen to what Caserio said and you listen to the comparisons to other punishments that have been handed down across the league, and you look at the history and just the precedent there. The inconsistency in the punishment is an issue, but I understand that there should be a punishment handed down there.
So JJ Watt says punishment understandable, but pretty extreme, pretty harsh. I don't know, man. Like, again, this is a guy who has got a history, right? This is a guy that is a repeat offender. This is a guy that has been fined or punished no less than, I was able to find 5. There may be more because it was kind of a cursory glance. But he got punished at least 5 times. All of them fines so far. There have been a couple that he didn't get fined for that a lot of people were upset about anyway. This whole concept is pretty simple to me. You're not going to convince me, and I'm sorry. I never played NFL football, but I also know that NFL football players defend their own. I know that. So when a former NFL player says, oh, it's how's he supposed to, like, I get it. You are obviously in a position that is much more likely to know what that looks like than I do. Much more likely to know what that looks like than I do. But at the same time, I got eyeballs. You know what I mean? Like, I got eyeballs. I saw it happen, and it looked at the time like he had plenty of time to pull up. I told this story and I'll tell it again very quickly. When I was getting certified to ride a motorcycle, I ride a bike. When I was getting my certification to ride a motorcycle, we had to do a thing where we had to drive 20 miles an hour straight at a dude. And in front of this dude was like a wooden barricade kind of thing, right? Like, a foot or two off the ground and a few feet wide. And he stood behind that thing. And as you drove to him, when you got about 10 yards out, 7 yards out from this guy, somewhere in that range, which is about the distance, in my ever so humble opinion, where it was about the distance where Trevor Lawrence was starting to slide. When you got about that same distance away from this cat, the guy behind the barricade would point left or he would point right. This was a test you had to pass to get your license. He would point left or he would point right. And you had to recognize, comprehend which way he wanted you to go, and steer the motorcycle in that direction and leave yourself enough time to get the motorcycle around the barricade. If you clipped the barricade, you lose. You fail that element of the test. Now, I'm not arguing that driving a motorcycle at 20 miles an hour and going left or right around a wooden barricade is the same as being a linebacker going full speed at a quarterback that is coming towards you, right? Because a linebacker is not running, most linebackers aren't running 20 miles an hour. But, when you add that Trevor Lawrence, who probably runs, what do you think, Lonzo, 4 or 5 miles an hour top speed?
He's faster than that.
I know. I'm making a bad joke. When Trevor Lawrence is also running full speed at you, you're probably looking at closer to, 40, 41 miles an hour worth of speed.
He could drop some tenths off if he cut his hair, but why do that?
No, I mean, listen.
Because it is still sticking out of the helmet. So it does.
And it flows, dude. He's got flow.
It does.
He's got lettuce. I understand it's a different thing. The point here is you're not convincing me he didn't have time to react. You're just not. And then even if he didn't have time to react, even if he didn't have time to stop himself from dropping the hips, lowering the center of gravity, moving the center of gravity ahead of the feet. Because remember, if the center of gravity is not ahead of the feet, you can't jump forward. That's how physics works. For him to be able to leap forward, dive into Trevor Lawrence, he has to have time to slow down, drop the hips, shift the center of gravity forward ahead of the feet, and then push it into Trevor Lawrence. And even if he didn't have time to stop and adjust that, I know that he had time
to not load up the forearm and drive it into the head of Trevor Lawrence. Even if all he could do is he was already didn't have time to stop, didn't have time to stop the center of gravity moving forward, didn't have time to load up into the legs and then explode into a diving tackle. Even if he didn't have time for any of that, which I don't believe. Even if he didn't have time to do those things, he absolutely had time not to load up the forearm and explode it into Trevor Lawrence's face mask. Does anybody disagree with that? Some of you guys have disagreed with me that he didn't have time to recognize the slide and pull off the diving tackle. Even if you disagree with that and you think he absolutely did not, you have to acknowledge that he had the time not to load up the forearm and blast Trevor in the face.
Yeah, it's about the forearm for me. I mean, it's really hard when you're going full speed to stop when the quarterback just decides to slide right then. That is true, and you can't stop yourself to a degree. If he put his hands out to try to stop himself from impacting, that would have looked better on him, but he loaded up that forearm and he came down on his head.
Straight in his face. Joey B says there are dudes who make way more money than we do that can figure out how to properly tackle a sliding player. They're not asking them to figure out cold fusion. It ain't that hard. Yeah. I mean, that's it. As far as the JJ take, James said JJ's going to defend his former team. Of course he is. Of course. And I'm not mad at him for it. I understand that. I understand that entirely. I'm not mad at JJ. And for the record, JJ did say a punishment is warranted, right? So JJ thinks the hit is appropriate. The punishment was appropriate for the hit. He just disagrees with the severity of the punishment, not the punishment, the severity of it. And I can even, to some degree, understand that because you don't want to, as we've talked about with college football quite a bit, you don't want to set a precedent where every time a sliding quarterback gets popped, it's a 3-game suspension. But as has been pointed out multiple times, Azeez Al-Shaair is a repeat offender. He has been fined multiple times for late hits out of bounds, for inappropriate conduct with offensive players, yada, yada. Nick Caserio, I don't care if your team elected him captain. I don't care. All the time, players do bad crap and the rest of their teammates rally around them. It's one of the hallmarks of sports. I do not care. He is a repeat offender who has a history over the course of his career of acting this way. He should absolutely be hammered for it. Let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute. It's time for Fight Club with the great Lonzo. We'll talk MMA and pro wrestling when we come back. Segment after that, we'll get into some of the sound from Shane Beamer's press conference yesterday and more, all coming up on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. All right, guys. Got to step away for a minute. Please don't go anywhere. Thank you very much. is up, friends? It's Rob Brown. I hope you're enjoying the show. If you're not, I don't know why you're here, but I am glad that you are. Hey, do us a favor. Whether you're enjoying it or not, would you mind sharing this around your social media, please? And thank you, Twitter, X, whatever you call it. I don't care. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, it doesn't matter to me. Help us get the good word out. We're trying to get famous and rich, and we can't do it without your help. So, The Rob Brown Show is on all social media, or share the YouTube channel, the Facebook page, wherever you're watching this, and we'd appreciate it very much. Now, let's get back to the show. Stick around.
Thursday should be trigger day. Hey, look, we're back because
Triggered Thursdays.
Triggered Thursdays. Well, since it's no longer tank top, good thing I didn't invest because I almost did it. And then I stopped myself.
I forgot that it was going to be cold.
It's not cold in here. Welcome into the Fight Club, where I got to admit, I've lost a little bit of the fight in me because of what happened Monday night. I mean, I'm still trying to wrap my head around how good WWE has become and their ability to actually swerve the entire world.
Oh, they got everybody.
They got everyone.
They got everybody.
So several years ago, my very first ever wrestling interview was with Xavier Woods. And even I have a poster in there from his TNA days that he signed. You can see a big creed on there if you go in there and look closely at it. And has always been one of my favorites because he also shares a great love of video games and has the money to.
He's a big dork.
Yeah, he goes to all the cons, all that kind of stuff, and he's my guy. We've seen this heel turn coming for a while, and if you remember,
we saw a heel turn coming.
We were fantasy booking not too long ago, and I said that I think it would be awesome if Kofi turned. I want to take that back. Because Kofi did turn, but with Xavier Woods, they turned on Big E. And it's just when Xavier Woods turned on Big E, it's like, man, that is so wrong. That is so messed up. And then Kofi stopped him and did even worse. And I'm just sitting there going, wow, emotionally, I haven't felt this way about wrestling in so long.
I agree.
And you realize that the power of positivity is dead, and it's truly dead. And what they did to Big E, because I think a lot of people were hoping that Big E was going to announce, hey, I've been medically cleared. I'm back. And he did say that, he would be in their corner and all that kind of stuff. And then they didn't want him anymore. And I guess, are we going to wait for the redemption angle? Will there be one? Will we look forward to that? Do we hope that, like some people have speculated, that Big E is going to be cleared and he's going to be with his old guy, CM Punk, who he shares time with, has shared time with on the announce desk or the pregame show desk? I don't know, dude. And I'm not the only one who felt that way. It's just, I was so glad because I didn't watch it live. I watched it the next morning before I came into work, and it messed me up the entire day. It really did.
So I watch my wrestling either at night before bed if there's no sports on. I catch up, and I couldn't last night because college basketball was in fuego last night. It was as good of a night of college basketball as you're going to get until March. College basketball was great. And we had Monday Night Football, obviously. Tuesday had a really good college football last night, or Tuesday night as well. So I've been watching in bits and pieces in the morning. And, of course, in the morning is also when I have to cut up and edit sound. So I really got about a 20, 25-minute window in the mornings to catch up. And so usually I do it in bits and pieces. I was catching up on Raw this morning, and I got to the moment that Big E came out. And I was like, I'm not emotionally prepared for this because I've already seen it and I've already seen the clip. Like I've already watched what they say to him, how they say it, how they kick him out of the ring, how they blame him for their problems, yada, yada, yada. I've already seen it and yet still was not prepared to watch the whole clip. I agree with you in that wrestling has not given me that. It's given us a lot of really high highs over the past couple of years, but that's the lowest low that I have felt out of, and I'm going to say this though, maybe out of any form of entertainment in a very long time. Like I genuinely, when I watched that clip on social media, either late on Monday night or Tuesday morning, when it hit, and when I saw it, the clip, all it showed for the, they got the little preview where they just show you a still, was Big E out in the ring wearing a suit with Xavier and Kofi. And I'm like, oh, yay! New Day rocks! We're back, baby! And then I pushed play, and I was not mentally prepared for that moment. And it felt like I watched the entire lead up to Timmy having to take the rifle out to Old Yeller. It's like, no, I'm not ready for this.
For me, as someone who was a teenager when then WWF had just started to take off with the Saturday Night Main Event, which is coming back here pretty soon. Can't wait for that in a couple weeks. I was a big Hulk Hogan fan, because Hulkamania was running wild, and I was one of those kids. And when the third man was revealed for the NWO, I put this akin to that emotionally. For me as a kid at the time, when Hulk, so when you was he already in the NWO?
I was a kid when that happened. Like a kid, God, what year was that? That was 90.
So it's that kind of.
I was like 9.
It's that kind of stunned.
Sure.
Because I just thought it was going to go a certain way, and it's like, Triple H, dude, you are so good. I hate you. I really hate you at this moment because this hurts, and it should not hurt, but it absolutely does. And I get it's a TV show, and I get all that, but you do get emotionally invested in these characters, and then that, and it wasn't like, oh man, I can't believe I got God. It was like how we got God.
Dude, I again, and before you go, how do you guys look? It's like any other form of entertainment. You watch movies, you watch television shows, and the reason we watch them is because there is some sort, to me, the best art, and I do consider professional wrestling an art. The best art is art that impacts you emotionally. And sometimes that emotion is no emotion. Sometimes it's ability to flip the switch and turn your brain off and not worry about the world being on fire around us. Sometimes it's that, but my favorite music is music that makes me feel something. My favorite movies are movies that have you either laughing hilariously or sitting on the edge of your seat in anticipation. Some of you weirdos like movies that scare the bejesus out of you, right? Like what emotion is what we go for. This is a story of a 10-year relationship that dates back to 2014 of 3 men who were put into a group and had this entirely different thing planned out for them. And in kayfabe, came together to figure out that, you know what, we want to be happy and positive and all that. And then as wrestlers out of kayfabe, we're given this garbage gimmick of like, hey, you're 3 black religious guys. And we're able to overcome that. And as the old metaphor goes, grab the brass ring to turn that pairing or that grouping into something that for years, people went out of their way to see and be a part of. And now, in kayfabe, that group has broken up with 2 of them turning on the guy who was the engine behind the whole thing in Big E. It was the first time in a long time, because like I said, I've been in an emotional high. Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30 knocking off Batista and Triple H and Randy Orton in 2 different matches, including a 3-way match at the end of the night. That was one of the highest highs I've ever felt as a fan. Monday night was one of the lowest lows I felt in a long time. And now that kind of emotion can hook you in. I'm right back in.
So here's the question, though. What do they do with this? I mean, what do they do with this? How do they capitalize? Because the next move has to be a pretty big move to match what they just did, right?
Well, so there's multiple ways. And here's where we get into the risk of fantasy booking. But I've always said this: wrestling is at its best when hardcore wrestling fans have no idea what's going on. Like, or what's coming next, I should say. Wrestling's at its best when hardcore fans don't know what's coming next. Because if they don't know what's coming next, the casuals certainly don't. And I don't know what's coming next. There's all kinds of possibilities. There's the possibility that we get a Kofi and Xavier tag team heel run for a while, and then does Big E come back? Is he capable of being medically cleared? We don't know. Kofi said he's not. He said, you're never coming back. We don't want you here anymore.
I think all signs have pointed towards he was on his way back.
Sure. So does he come back with somebody else as his partner to take them down as a tag team? Does he come back as a solo face and try to rip them back? Does he come back and we have this long saga of him just getting the hell beat out of him, but never giving up on bringing Kofi and Xavier back to being the New Day versions of themselves? There's so many different ways that this could go. Here's what I know. We get Big E back on TV. Hell yeah.
Wow.
It might be a little while.
Yeah, I know.
I think you got to let them go on a run for a while to prove that they are, as heels, are nasty dudes that can get it done. But Big E is the light at the end of the tunnel.
All right, let's jump into some positive news, something that was just announced a little while ago. Pat McAfee will return to WWE on Netflix. So now we know when his return is going to be, and he will be back with Michael Cole on Raw on the Monday nights.
Good. I think McAfee does an outstanding job. Again, the reason
we
McAfee...
knew he was coming back more than likely.
For sure.
Because he did it last year. But now having a date, because there was speculation that would be when it would be. I am curious what the announced team sounds like on Netflix. Are restraints pulled off? Is it more like what his TV and radio show are?
So there was a report that came out yesterday on the dirt sheets, and again, you know, dirt sheets, you can read into them as much as you want to or not at all. But there was a report yesterday that an internal memo from WWE is basically saying they don't plan to change anything. Like there might be a little bit more, and I think you saw that on NXT because we had a couple of words that would have caught a bleep on the Rob Brown show get uttered on NXT Tuesday night. I think you'll get a little bit more edge, right? But I don't think you're getting wholesale F-bombs on Netflix. I think you might get a couple more B words. I think you get a couple more I'll kick your asses. I think you get a couple more S words mixed in there.
Because at the same time, they're still trying to keep the audience that they have, which is, I think, still primarily or a lot is kids and families coming.
Wrestling is always going to be catered to kids. It just is. Even again, this is why I loved AEW. And the problem with AEW is they're trying to kind of walk it back. AEW needs to do the opposite. They need to go to the far end of the kid friendly. No, you're not a kid. We are anti-kid friendly. We are going full wholesale, gratuitous violence, sex, drugs, and rock and roll wrestling. But WWE, as a $1 billion product it is always going to be driven by kids because their objective is what? Their objective is to get your kids to love wrestling growing up so that when you go, you step into the role that goes, I've loved wrestling since I was a kid. Now I have an expendable income and I got a kid and I'm going to make them a wrestling fan. I think it'll get a little bit more edgy, but I also think, and this is just me, I also think as society rolls on, you are seeing a shift in what is considered kid-friendly. Things that are considered kid-friendly now would never have flown back in the 90s. So I do think it'll be a little more edgy, but I don't think you're going to be getting McAfee dropping F-bombs on the mic like he does on his radio show.
All right, really quick, because this will be for Nerdfall. The last one didn't work because everyone called in on Saturday. NXT pay-per-view this weekend. Deadline. There are 5 matches. Let us start with the tag team championship match between Nathan Frazier and Axiom, who are the current champions, and No Quarter Catch Crew, which is Tavian Heights and Miles Bourne. By the way, I like No Quarter Catch Crew. I hope they get some more airtime. It's because I like Regal's kid. I
don't disagree with that at all. I do. I like Regal's kid. I like that he can kind of toe the line between.
I also like Ren Sinclair, who just accidentally wins all the time.
That was fantastic, by the way. That was absolutely fantastic. Let's go No Quarter.
Okay, I also am going to go No Quarter
because you've got them with William Regal as a proxy now too. Even though he's not, He is.
Yeah, he is. All right. Lola Vice versus Jada Parker in an NXT Underground match.
This is one of those spots that it got a little spicy on NXT the other day. She said, we're going to run this bleep back, which I thought was great.
Well, when one person hits the other person
with a brick
in
the face.
Yeah, you kind of want to get back at that person somehow.
I don't disagree. Lola Vice.
Yeah. I hate that we're
gonna end up having.
We're not though. We're not.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna skip ahead before we do the Iron Survivor matches to Trick Williams versus Ridge Holland.
See, this one I don't know because I was convinced it was going to be Trick hanging on, but Ridge has picked up a win. He's done a couple of attacks on Trick here and there. I'm gonna stick with Trick Willie style here. But this is one that I'm like 52% confident in.
All right, I'm going to go with Ridge Holland. They've really been pushing him, but he's not ready to go back to the main roster. I think Trick Williams is. I think
that's fair.
I think he is. His mic skills have improved since Carmelo left, and he's had more airtime. His wrestling was already there, but needed just a little bit of tweaking. I think he's ready. All right, 2 Iron Survivor matches, 1 women, 1 men, and how this works is a 25-minute time limit. As many pinfalls or submissions as you can get within that time. All right, let's start with the women because I think it's the more challenging to figure out. Julia versus Stephanie Vaquer versus Zaria versus Sol Ruca versus Ren Sinclair.
I love the way they threw Ren Sinclair into this, but I think in doing so, they kind of made her the one that's going to eat a lot of this. I'm also a huge, nobody in a very long time has had the turnaround in my opinion than Sol Ruca. I was not a fan of her early in the day. Now I'm like,
I was.
That chick's a badass.
Yes,
she's awesome.
Her finisher, the
Soul Snatcher,
Soul Snatcher
is as good as I've ever seen.
It's so good.
It's so good. All of that being said, you've got 3 global superstars in this match, in Julia Vaquer and Zaria. It's to me between Stephanie and Zaria. I really like Zaria, but I'm gonna go Stephanie Vaquer in this one. Do we match up there too?
Yeah, because I'd already wrote that down. I think so too. Because I think the obvious choice everyone's going to believe it's going to be Julia, and who knows, Zaria might come in and do it too.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be shocked if it's Zaria. I think it's one of those two. I just think Vaquer's got a little bit more push ready to go.
And finally, for the men, Wes Lee versus Ethan Page versus Nathan Frazier versus Javion Evans versus Eddie Thorpe.
This is another one of like 52%.
Although Eddie Thorpe could be replaced because he got jumped at the end of the show, and there's a lot of speculation out there that The Rock sent the Bloodline to beat him up because he hurt his daughter. I mean, that's the speculation.
That'd be interesting.
That would be great. I don't believe that, but that would be great.
Same, but it would be interesting. Give me Wesley.
Daggone it.
Another one?
I hate you.
I want you to know I went first on all of these with no idea who Lonzo picked.
Yeah, so the only thing that we varied on is Trick Williams and Ridge Holland.
Okay,
so there we go.
That's the game right there.
It comes down to 1 right there.
All right, that's Fight Club. We do it every Thursday at 9:20, talking all the MMA and pro wrestling and sometimes boxing that you can possibly handle. We'll be come back here in just a minute. I'll give you some of the sound from Shane Beamer's press conference yesterday regarding South Carolina's not getting into a playoff spot, at least not yet. It's not happening, but at least not yet. We'll play that for you. We'll ask what the X is going on, and we'll get up out of here for the day on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Big E's girlfriend did cook Xavier Woods, and it was hysterical.
I think it's continued, too. I don't think it's just I mean, that's going to be something that's going to be ongoing. Toronto has named their new WNBA team's logo or mascot.
Yeah, is there anywhere more dangerous on planet Earth than the NXT parking lot? Even Rhea got smoked in the NXT parking lot.
You got to be careful out there.
That place is a war zone.
It's not even that big of a parking lot.
It's not, but it's a war zone.
NXT still, to me, has a problem because everyone has to turn heel before they're successful, it seems.
Well, I mean, that's what it's for, right? Like, can you?
I know they're developing and probably showing both sides. I get what you're saying, but Wesley's heel move, cutting his hair off. He looks like a heel now.
Yeah.
Is she really? You're right, Joe. It is an Iron Man match with a bunch more people in it, but it's pretty entertaining.
I mean, I'm here for it. Imagine the chaos, dude. If every
you missed it. They were showing Simpson stuff.
And L.F.G. I mean, he ran out of the back of the end zone. What do you want?
When is that game? Is that
Sunday?
Is it? Okay.
Sunday, I can't remember if it's the night game or the afternoon. Thanks, Mr. Chris.
Actually, tonight's Thursday night game actually might be pretty good. Green Bay and Detroit.
Yes, it will. It could be very good. It's only, I think, 3-point spread. Shane Beamer was doing a press conference yesterday and got asked a question about, is he going to change the way that he looks at and talks with the AD about handling his business and his reaction to not being a playoff team. Let me start with this. He was asked right out of the gate, what was your reaction? What were your thoughts when you did not get in? Here's what Shano had to say.
I would say it's very surprising. Ward manual, if I hear the word data point one more time in my life, I may throw up. But there's a lot of data points that they apparently take into make their decisions. But I'm not sure strength of schedule is one of them, because I don't know how you can go play Clemson last week in the biggest game in the history of the Carolina-Clemson rivalry, win a game over a team that's ranked higher than you, and move up one spot. And another team can beat a team that's not even going to a bowl game and move up 2 spots. Or how you can sit there with a straight face and say that the results of this weekend don't matter. I would say a Clemson team that has a potential to be an ACC champion, having a loss on their home field to a team like us, that's a pretty freaking strong data point, if you ask me. So it's just frustrating, Jack, in that I don't really know what they look at. We've had previous, committees that said we start with a blank slate every single week. And if you start with a blank slate every week and you say, okay, let's rank the 12 best teams, regardless of record, it's hard to say, like I told you guys on Saturday, that we're not one of them in my mind. So that part of it is disappointing, that it doesn't appear they started with a blank slate. And I get it. They're going to say, well, head to head, you can't be ahead of Alabama and Ole Miss because you lost to them head to head. Well, they had Alabama hit a Tennessee at one point when they both had the same number of losses, and Tennessee beat Alabama. So I don't know if that holds up. And then it's the frustrating. And I feel like a basketball coach now, because I feel like I see this every year on Selection Sunday before March Madness, is like, what's the criteria? Because last year injuries were clearly a factor because they left Florida State out because of an injury. And this year, I guess injuries aren't a factor as well, or on and on and on. I mean, there's other things I can get into, but don't need to. But that's just the disappointing thing, is there's a lot of data points that are out there. And if their job's to truly pick the 12 best teams, to sit there and say that we're not even in the top 12, but what are we ranked? 15th or whatever we came, 14th. I don't know. It's there's some really competent people in that room that I know personally, but their decision on this one's a head scratcher.
Yeah. I mean, and I think the interesting thing that he brought up there, and I did not even think about this, was the point that during the season, after Tennessee had beaten the University of Alabama was ranked ahead of Tennessee with the same number of losses. So, you know, this is why I've said a number of times, if head-to-head is a major criteria, okay. If, you know, strength of schedule is a major criteria, okay. If, you know, your brand is a major, listen, if they just straight up say, listen, at the end of the day, it's the best 12 teams or the most deserving 12 teams, then also we want to give you the best television playoffs we can give you. I mean, not okay, but at least have the stones to say it, right? The point here is every one of the things that are frequently listed as a criteria, you can come up with an example somewhere of that criteria, at least on a surface level, not appearing to be involved. That's the biggest takeaway for me from this. It seems like anywhere you look, there's an example somewhere of the fact that the criteria doesn't seem to be met. And I'm not the only one. This is not a nobody. Dan Patrick got asked, is Bama in because they deserve it or because they're Bama?
I would say it has a little bit more to do with their Alabama. The brand is going to get you in. This is what's happened. College football had conference championship games because it was a cash grab. Now you don't have to have that. You have a 12-team playoff, not a 4-team playoff. When the 4-team playoff, not everybody was sharing in all the monies. And now you have teams that can go to a conference championship and the teams and the conferences benefit. Well, they don't want to screw up what happens with the 12-team playoff by having one of their teams lose in a conference championship game. So it feels like they're slowly trying to diminish or get rid of conference championship games. Miami's upset. You know what, Miami? You got upset. That's why you shouldn't be upset. You lost 2 of 3. If you beat Syracuse, then we're not in this position. You lost to Syracuse.
Alabama got murdered, not literally, by Oklahoma, an average team this year. It wasn't even close. Alabama's resume in November is getting waxed against Oklahoma, beating Mercer, which does not count, and a decent win over Auburn. They didn't help themselves in November. They hurt themselves.
Yeah. Alabama's a brand. The U used to be a brand.
Correct.
Not anymore.
So there you go. I mean, again, I'm not the only one saying it. There's Dan Patrick saying it. Now, he doesn't work for ESPN anymore, so he doesn't really have the consequences, but you get the point. Anyway, asked if the lack of inclusion for South Carolina will change the way that the team looks at perhaps scheduling moving forward. Shane said this.
It might take a couple days, but when you kind of look at all the vagueness of what the committee decides and how they can have one priority one year, not one the next, does that influence you in any way going forward? Do you talk with whoever the next AD is about changes?
If you're asking, is there anything to gain by playing in some of these games that you play out of conference? I think it's something that not just us, but every team needs to look at, because clearly you can go through an entire season, not beat a ranked team and be in the playoff if you just win. So, I think it's something. I'm a competitor. I love playing in those games. I'm looking forward to playing Virginia Tech and Atlanta next season. But the committee made it very clear that they really don't give a hoot who you beat. Just, don't lose 3 times and you're in, even if it means you never beat a ranked opponent. Not one. Don't beat a ranked opponent, but just win the games on your schedule and you're in. They made a pretty strong statement about that. Absolutely.
So we'll see if this does impact anybody. Shane believes, and at least a couple of other coaches, I'm sure at this point, believe that scheduling strong out of conference is officially pointless now. So we'll see if that changes anything about the landscape of college football moving forward.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying,
"You hear that?
Even before they take their
Wow.
bathroom
And I'm just letting it go.
Mhm,
And I'm just
mhm.
letting it
I
go
was-
because I just, wow.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
You know what I need to do? I need to move my beds around, so I don't do that anymore because it's a senior mistake. I'm starting to make more of those. At least you guys are witnessing the end of me. So there's that. You've
Listen.
witnessed the beginning of me 20 something years ago.
We
And now
are
you're
gonna
starting to witness the
start-
end of me.
We're gonna start a GoFundMe to make sure Lonzo's in a very nice home. Very nice.
I want
home.
to go to the villages, man. I hear it's really nice down there.
I mean, listen, you want to go to
They-
Florida, bud? We'll make it work.
They got golf carts and everything. You got pool down there in Florida. I might need to go. All right. The first thing that's Xing is Dan Morgan.
Dan Morgan, aka the general manager of your Carolina Panthers, ladies and gentlemen. He is Xing because everybody's looking at me like, oh, damn, the Panthers maybe got a little something cooking down there. Maybe Dan Morgan kind of onto something here. I don't know why.
All right. He is Xing because people are saying they owe him an apology because they were so mad when he traded away Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, it turns out Deontay Johnson, whoops, he has been suspended by the Baltimore Ravens, the team that they sent Deontay Johnson to. What'd they get back for him? Like a 4th rounder from Baltimore? He just refused to go in the game last week. Just refused. He was like, nope, I'm good, coach. I'm not going in. So they've suspended him. And everybody's like, oh, dude, the Panthers fleeced the Ravens on that one. And they kind of did.
They did. I mean, you can see how mad I am at myself because my face is blood red. I'm so ticked that I did that again. The next thing it's Xing is Creature Commandos.
I have nothing.
Okay. Creature Commandos is the first thing to drop from the new DC with James Gunn. And
Okay.
It's animated and you'll love it from what I've seen of the trailers. The first 2 episodes dropped today, like at midnight last night.
I'm checking out. I have been in on
it's on Max, and from what I've seen, it's very adult, and I don't know if it's to the degree of like Harley Quinn, but it's around that level.
First off, I adore the Harley Quinn
That's
animated
why
series.
that's why I'm trying to sell you on it.
I am currently blasting my way through Invincible, which I am also in love with.
It's in the lines of Invincible, also
I'm all in.
from what I can tell.
I'm all in. I like it.
And this is his first official DC thing since he took over.
I mean, listen, I'm 100% giving the DC Gunniverse a shot. If this is the start, let's go.
All right. The next thing that's next, I'm gonna go home and watch the first 2 episodes.
I like it.
Because I'll be there alone. Because it's might be that bad. All right. The next thing that's Xing is your boy, JJ Redick.
JJ Redick is trending because the Lakers actually had a pretty good start to the season, and now they suck for some reason. They got blown out by 41 points last night. LeBron James has been in the NBA for 20 seasons. This is just his 3rd time losing by 40 or more. JJ got onto the mic, and he's like, look, at the end of the day, he kind of pulled the, who was it? Jerome Mayo from New England a couple of weeks ago got put on blast because he's like, look, once the boys cross the white line, there's nothing I can do, right? And other people are like, oh, you're the head coach. It's like, yeah, but at the end of the day, like, if you haven't taught them how to play football when they go out there, there's not much you can do to adjust. JJ's on the mic, and he's like, there's not a lot I can do. He's like, I can't go out there. I can't go crash the glass. I can't knock down threes. I can't make the extra pass. I can't swing the ball. There's not much I can do. Oh, I'm not saying it's the player's fault, though. Dog, that's exactly what you said, JJ. Like, come on, man. Like, I'm at the point now where if I was JJ Redick, I'd 100% put it on the players. But like, LeBron, I appreciate you getting me this job, dog. But if y'all don't get something going, it's going to be my last job, dog. So maybe let's try. Please try. There was a play last night where the Heat wrapped the ball around spread. It went from top of the key, side of the key, under the basket, back to the side of the key. Then back onto the basket for a Jimmy Butler layup. Lonzo, there were 4 gold jerseys around Jimmy Butler. Not one of them even took a step towards the layup. I've never seen anything like it. Like, legitimately, I would have sat every Laker. I'd have forfeited the game on the spot. Like, if that was a youth team I was coaching, I swear to you, I'd have called the ref over and been like, we're done. We're going home. They don't want to play. We're out of here.
Wow. And finally, the last thing that's Xing is Hawk Tua.
Yeah, I saw that trending earlier, and that is, I'm willing to click on risky things on my work laptop to find out what that's trending. Okay, good. I mean, I know like there's Hot to a Girl and
no, it's about her. Apparently, she started a thing called meme coin, which is like Dogecoin or something like that. And people lost a lot of money, and they're pretty angry about it.
Oh God, people keep losing money on fake money. I'm
Yeah,
shocked.
I don't get
I'm
it.
shocked that people are losing money on their fake money.
And
Stop buying fake money with real money, you morons.
And out of all the fake money that you're spending money on, why would you do it with her? I just no.
I want it on the record. If you bought fake money from the, sorry, let me say it the way she would say. If you bought fake money from the at.to girl, I'm glad you lost your money because you don't deserve to have it in the first place. If you bought fake money from at.to girl with real money, it sucks to be you, but you deserve it.
Yeah, next time that fake, just give me the money that you spent on that. I will invest it wisely.
Y'all have a great day. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Don't drink and drive. I'll punch you in the face. Thanks for being here. Tell your friends about us. We're trying to get famous on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate later.
I didn't know if you were going with the double shot, which is what it usually has been doing, right? Two.
Yeah, there's two of them. I know where to cut it off to get just the one.
Okay. Two toots of the horn, if you will.
If at.to girl like knowingly scammed people, does she not automatically become the most villainous person of all time?
Although I just don't see her being a person who knowingly would do that.
I don't either, but I'm saying like if somebody ever came out and they caught her like legitimately scamming someone, is that not the greatest con maybe ever? Like
Maybe.
My favorite con ever is the guy who sold the Eiffel Tower twice fraudulently. That's my favorite guy ever. That dude's hilarious. This guy made up papers that said he owned the Eiffel Tower and that the French government had asked him to scrap the Eiffel Tower. He sold the Eiffel Tower to a group of investors, and then he fled France and he went to like Denmark or Iceland or somewhere, and he hid out for like 3 years. And they looked and looked and looked and couldn't find him. And then he eventually gave up on finding him. So when they gave up on finding him, he went back to France and did it again. Did it again. Same scam, same setup. Did it again, took their money, and just left again. And then nobody ever heard from him again, which is absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Lakers, Cowboys, Duke basketball, Yankees fans in shambles. Invincible is great. It is very gory. They hit you with.
You're only in season 1 too.
No, I've made it to season 2.
Oh, did you make it to season 2?
Yeah, I made it through the plot twist at the end of 1.
I was gonna say, what about that?
I'm loving it. Like I'm going home to I'm not going home to watch more. I'm going home because I got a 11:30 and then dude, what do you do when you have back-to-back lunch meetings?
Well, you got another meeting today that
and I got a 12:55 on the phone.
Yeah,
which my first one's at 12:30. So if that one's not over in half an hour,
I'll say that meeting.
That's a Zoom meeting though.
At 12:30.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yay. Okay. I got to go because I have all those things. Y'all have a great day. Thanks for being here. You're amazing. Tell your friends about us. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.
I've had to constantly remind myself of that because that